Good. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. I think tonight's going to be a little bit of a longer show. I'm not going to kid you. I'm expecting it to be. We're probably going to run a little long. I accidentally set tonight's goal of 15 yellows for 5 new followers. 15 yellows equaling 5 new followers. I accidentally set it for 30 minutes. Someone correctly pointed out to me. I'm going to adjust that appropriately and account for anything that comes in before the 30-minute period. So I'll restart it. Someone remind me. Someone will remind me. The reminder will come. I know the reminder will come. Anyway, I apologize for that. Hope you enjoyed that look into the future as to people's predictions back in 1960. As to what they thought the year 2000 would be like. That was very, very telling. Very, very telling. Something that a lot of people on the interwebs are talking about today that I don't think is, I don't know what I could add to this story. This is just like you watch a 40-second clip. I don't even know what to add to it, but you need to know about it. You need to know this happened. You have to know this happened. So now you know.
Somebody's campaign.
This is in the House of Representatives. Jasmine Crockett is the one talking, and she references Nancy Mace here. Nancy Mace's anti-trans stance. Anti-trans stance. So she's trying to basically pretend that Nancy Mace is trying to make hay out of it just for her campaign, as you're about to see.
Coffers really are struggling right now. So she gonna keep saying trans so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell me whether or
Do
not.
not call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I'm 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have.
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will
am
in your
reclaiming my
life.
time.
You will not do that.
Order.
I am not a child.
I am reclaiming my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not in order.
Order.
Point of order. Wow. Was that wrong? Was that wrong of me to say? What the
Point of order. Order.
Somebody.
Oh my gosh. If you want to take it outside, that escalated quickly. I mean, I don't think this made any of them. I don't think this made either of them look good. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think Nancy Mace comes off particularly well here saying, let's take this outside. Like we're going to get the mud pool or something. What are you going to do? What is going to happen here? You want to take this outside? And the whole child thing. I mean, that's I mean, is it a eugenics type of thing? I mean, black people tend to say child, I think, more than white folk. I don't know. Was Nancy Mace being a little bit petty here? Felt a little petty, not going to kid you. That she was like offended in general and she sort of leaped on that moment. I'm just telling you my gut feeling when I was watching it the first time. I was like, eh. On the other hand, Jasmine Crockett is an airheaded ditz. So the idea of Nancy Mace stomping on her, even just metaphorically or figuratively, I think is probably a positive thing. So she really isn't an airheaded individual. It's terribly incompetent. But anyway, I don't really have much more to add on that, other than the fact that the internet's talking about it, because that's not the sort of thing you see from a pair of congressmen or women on a daily basis. So maybe we should see it more. I don't know. That might be your opinion. I don't think either of them played well here. I don't think either of them played. I think they both came off poorly. But that's just my take. Some of you might think that, Nancy Mace was standing up for herself. Yeah, okay. I get that. But yeah. Anyhow, I don't really have much more beyond that. Other than I don't think this was a sterling moment for either one of them. Freedom forever, coming back to the fight. You see, you might drift away And then the lure brings you back into the fire. Welcome back, follower, freedom forever. God bless you. And Jadine, I like you, Joe, but Gal Gadot still my favorite Jew. You can't compete on Gal's level. No, I never try. This is we're in a whole separate, different kind of competitions there. I appreciate the super chat and everything. You know, I ain't fighting with no gals. So, he said it. He made the joke. I left the military in 21 because of mandatory struggle sessions. Pete made me want to return to service today. He's like, many I've served with, this man is one of us and will strengthen our forces. I think he will. We're going to be watching a condensed version. I found a condensed version. The whole session was like 4 hours. I found one that's like an hour and a half. Now, the reason I say it's going to be a long show is because I know that when I'm watching a session, it tends to take, on average, twice as long as whatever the length of the video I'm watching is. It's probably not going to take twice as long because I'm probably going to do some over talking on this. But, and maybe, going faster through some and regular speed through others as appropriate. But chick chuck, this is the sound of women in Congress acting ratchety. Well, also in the Senate, as we're about to spend the next 3 hours listening to. Oh, my God. Also, I want to follow up on the story yesterday. We spent a great deal of time talking about that conflict at the Lincoln Center in the Eagle game between a Packer fan and an Eagle fan. Eagle fan using, I guess, what they call the female slur, and getting all sorts of dark matter thrown at him. And I was standing up for him, still continue that fight on into today. What I was unaware of when I brought this to your attention yesterday was the fact that he had already been identified. And this kind of ironic, Philadelphia Eagles have punished him. Oh, I thought I had a link on this side. I'm going to link on one of the two matters I want to cover. So the Philadelphia Eagles decide to punish Ryan Caldwell, that's the guy's name, after he was filmed abusing a female rival fan. So they basically said, you can't come back to the link no more. We don't need to spend much more time on that. But this guy here, the link is saying, we're not allowing you in the building for any events, football, concerts, anything that happens here. You ain't welcome. You're on the official no-fly list. I don't know what would stop him from presenting other types of ID that would get in there, but you're certainly revoking his seats, which seems a little bit excessive. He lost some of my sympathy. When let me find a quick link for you on this, because I actually thought I had something here, but don't. But it'll take me all 2 seconds to dig something up here. Yeah. This is the company he works for, which apparently is letting him go. BCT Partners. Now, when you hear that his company let him go, you sort of like, well, this is kind of messed up in a whole different set of ways that life should not be messed up. I mean, I'm sorry. This is kind of crazy. I'm going to fire him. But then when you find out he works for BCT Partners, and you're like, well, what's BCT Partners? BCT Partners happens to be a consultant agency for different companies. And one of the areas they tend to consult in is, you guessed it, he's part of the DEI firm. Oh my God, because all of DEI is a lie. It is crap. DEI. So this guy who uses a slur against females, fired from a company where he's been working there for I don't even know how long, busy basically training different companies in the best way to be more diverse, equitable, and inclusive. He's the master of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This calls to mind the idea that this guy teaching DEI could be friggin' hilarious. I mean, friggin' hilarious. It's like, okay, so imagine Imagine he's like teaching people workplace settings type of thing. This is what I'm envisioning, right? So, okay, your secretary comes in, and because she's a dumb beep, she shows up 10 minutes late when you needed her there for an important meeting. Now, what would you do with the dumb beep when she actually ends up showing up late on a consistent basis? Well, first and foremost, you have to realize that I don't know what this is. It's kind of hilarious to me. I think Saturday Night Live would have a field day making a skit out of Ryan Caldwell teaching DEI. And I definitely think there's a delicious irony that this guy who has been part of it, at the very least, like, I don't know if he's part of the DEI division or not, but he's part of an agency which is helping to foist this madness upon the world, ends up being swallowed up in it. So, in principle, everything about this story is gross and disgusting. I think it was gross what he said to her. I think that even more toxic, and he's creating a toxic environment when he does that. Even more toxic than that environment that he's creating by basically throwing the C word at a woman is the reaction from social media, where they're basically like, let's throw him out of the stadium, get rid of him, get him fired. That's way more toxic, way more dangerous, way worse for society than some incidental, no one remembered it, no one cared in the moment. You saw from the woman's reaction that she's like, oh, boo, he called me ugly. She didn't even recognize that she was called a C word. And all of a sudden, for these people to come out of the woodwork, white knighting, saying, I've got you, baby, I'm going to take care of you. I can't believe he hurt your feels like that. There no-fly zone, no-fly zone. And like I said, it's gross. You never heard me use that word. You never did. You don't hear me say a lot of words which are considered to be a lot less than that. So it's not like sort of thing like I'm trying to give a pass for this guy so that thereby I get a pass, because, you know, I don't talk like that. But the bottom line is I don't think that people who do talk like that should basically be like, you know, let's chase him down, get the tar, pour it over him, dump the bucket of feathers over him. This is insanity. It doesn't make any sense. But that's what social media has become. I was hoping that after the election, people would stop doing that. But apparently old habits die hard. Now, the fact that he works for a DEI company and he helped create this culture, to me, that's a little bit of a delicious irony. That's delicious irony right there. That's delicious irony. There's one more thing here about this. Oh, so victimized woman and man and her fiance. So victimized. I can't believe you had to suffer through all that. Is that this guy here, Alex Becerra, who's sitting there saying, help me, Packer Nation. You're my only hope. And bent over, making a little hologram video of himself. Say, help me, Packer Nation. You're my only help. Help me identify this evil brute. Well, this guy apparently has his own little social media like agency. This is what he does. His name is Alex Basaraski of Basaraski Productions on YouTube. Should I find his channel? I should probably find his channel. Well, anyway, I don't really care much about what the hell kind of content he's producing. That's not the point. That's not the point. Should I pull it up? But this is the point I want to get to. He came to this game courtesy of his fans and creating a GoFundMe, so that saying, hi, my name is Alex, but you may know me as Basaraski Productions on YouTube, or simply just Baz. The Packers are heading to the playoffs and are going into Philly this next Sunday to take on the number 2 seed Eagles. Things are gloomy right now in Packer fandom, but one thing's certain, I'm still confident to believe this team. All great, all wonderful, no problem with any of this. I have no problem with starting a GoFundMe. That's fine. You know what? People want to help pay you to go there. That's fine. But this is the informed consent to the situation and environment that he's displaying here. There's an informed consent that he knows and is happily walking into terrain that he knows is going to be hostile. Because he says, you know, I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania. Actually 1 hour from the Eagles Stadium. So I ask of you, the fans, send me to Philly. Send me into the belly of the beast. I've done it multiple times, repping the Packers proud. I'm fully ready to do it again. I've been cursed at. Oh, you have? Oh, my God. You stuff thrown at me. Even my first ever cheese head ripped off my head, thrown into a fire bin while supporting my team in Philly. But I'm sure as hell not scared to do it again. And that's all cool. I have no problem with this. I'm not hating on him for anything he wrote here. Everything he wrote here is fine. You want to rile people up and start a GoFundMe? He succeeds, makes almost the $600. He asked for $600. He got $586. That's a successful campaign right there. I have no problem with anything he's done at this point in time. What I have a problem is don't walk into what you yourself refer to as the belly of the beast and then turn to social media to bail you out. And Packer Nation, help me. I can't believe he said this to my girlfriend. No, that's sick. That is sick. You were willingly walking into an area that is like rife with like basically the crudest, most loudmouth people in the world. And then basically now you want to throw one of them and ruin their lives because he lived down to everything you were asking for. He lived down to everything you were asking for. So now you want to ruin his life. I'm sorry. There's something disturbingly wrong about this entire thing. Disturbingly wrong. And none of this is to give a pass to Ryan Caldwell, Mr. DEI himself, and the very offensive and gross language that he used. I'm not trying to say that that's like, oh, this is something that like is a role model for society. I'm simply saying that there are folks like that, and to try and it's almost like a honey trap type of thing. Like it's like you think that these people, when they got there, they were like sitting there all quietly in their seats the entire time. I don't believe it. Not people are going to the belly of the beast and proudly repping Packer Nation. Everything about this is gross. It's gross. It's gross. I've gotten some flack for this. Like people saying, I'm unsubscribing from you, Joe. I'm standing here, and this is the one thing like I want to point out. I've been consistent on this. I didn't like it when MAGA did it to other folks also. I didn't like it when MAGA went after some Yahoo nobody loser who came out and was screaming, loser, insane craziness of like, too bad the shooter missed on July 13th when the first assassination attempt of Trump, which is gross and disgusting and sick. And when someone finds that was a Facebook post, someone's like, here's the person who made that Facebook post at her job in Home Depot and filming them and putting her name out there and just trying to, I was like, this is, and then contacting, hey, Home Depot, do you know that you got this employee? I'm like, come on, just leave her be. Like, okay, she's an idiot. Not everything has to be something that we're just going to make a whole big to-do about. Not everything. There are jackasses out there. And just because you disagree with a jackass about something that they did or their particular brand of jackassery doesn't mean you have to try and destroy their lives. Just, move along and forget about it. Oh my! It's like you weren't even the target of it. None of the people complaining about this were the target. If the woman herself was complaining, at least then that like she's bothered by it. We haven't heard a boo from her. Boyfriend coming out there. A whole big production. Bothers me. I don't like it. I think that's what I want to give you all before we got into this thing here, which is the Senate Committee confirmation hearing. This is the Armed Services Committee hearing. The Senate Armed Services Committee. And they're trying to vet out and decide what they're going to say in their report to the Senate in anticipation of him being nominated by Trump to serve as Trump's Secretary of Defense. Obviously, I was actually a little surprised to see this. Now, when I first saw some reports about this, I was like, that can't be right. He hasn't been nominated. He can't be nominated until January 20th. I was surprised that they're being so proactive about this. I'm happy to see it. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's get things moving. January 20th. Let's go. I kept saying there's nothing official. He could literally, name Captain Kangaroo as the head of as the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth would have no legal claim on the job. You know, he throws out there a true social post, but Shaw is shooting. Senate's taking it seriously, and they held 4-hour committee hearing where he's sitting there giving his statements and answering questions on live TV. And we saw some craziness unfold, some fiery questioning, and watching him keep his cool. I think this is a nice way of actually testing his mettle. I don't have a problem with, the nature of the questions and stuff like that was kind of funny, but Senator Hirono in particular, she just makes me giggle. Talking about him being drunk, she sounds drunk to me all the time. But let me get to super chats, and then we're going to move on to, we're going to start getting into this hearing. So let's clear that out. We're going to clear out the super chats. What we got? Joe, what's your take on CNN defamation trial going on? I'm not following it at all. Like, at all. I haven't been following it. Where is it at? Defamation. I haven't been following it at all. I will look into it, though. I appreciate you calling to my attention. Our Armed Services Committee is filled with shrill nags. Not only am I more certain Hegseth's the right pick, I'm really concerned about the committee. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm going to share with you on that, since you raised the point. You say that they're a bunch of shrill nags. This I thought was funny. This was funny enough. I actually showed it. To Lady Lawgic, because I was like, this is funny stuff. Yeah. It's actually where I got my thumbnail from. These are 4 women yelling at him about the fact that he doesn't want to have women around him in the army, at least in the combat. In combat in the army.
Are you willing to support our veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line to keep our safe, just like are you willing to support our veterans organizations that will help our veterans get
Hardcore Fenton Mud, you've been drinking and carousing again. You good for nothing loudmouth. Stella dear. That was for old school. That reference was for the old school ones. Not all. Most of you probably won't get that one, but couple will get it. Greg Kelly's adamant that PH should not be confirmed due to potential blackmail, having settled the complaint. Your wisdom, dear leader, settling a complaint is not blackmailable. That's not blackmailable. A non-disclosure agreement is not blackmailable. And anyone who you're going to nominate could have things in their history which is blackmailable. So respectfully to Greg Kelly, I disagree with him. DI rep fired and banned treating women like a... Yeah, I know. Treating women like a man. Yeah, that's what he was doing, right? He was treating her like a man. Teresa! New member. Welcome back, Teresa. Bend over and make a hologram is a wild visual. You know the reference I was making there. Come on. Y'all knew the reference I was making. I had a pretty strong opening. A lot of how I judge my show in general, by the way, is like what I talk about in the opening, like the first 15 minutes of the show, how the whole mood and tenor is. To me, that sets a vibe for the rest of the show, which I try to maintain, especially when it's a positive one. And our opening tonight was pretty good. It was pretty solid. It was good work. It was good work product. I caught so much crap for calling out reporting the post docs and the Philly jerk. You're spot on. They threw snowballs at Santa FF. Yeah, it's so stupid. So stupid. Democrats really put all their hypocrisy on display during the hearing. Comically Democrat doltery. Doltery, he says. Doltery. Democrats versus Hegseth was a battle with Sadly, the Democrats came on. It was quite a show. Quite a show. Let's get into it. Let's do it. Without further ado, let me just make sure 100% sure that I haven't missed anything from the Denise says, if the Eagles fan is going to lose job over anything, it should be an Eagles fan, not for what he said at the game. This is true. Being an Eagles fan should be punishable, but it should be a fireable offense. Should be a fireable offense. Let's get into it. I didn't really care much about his statement, but I mean, I didn't even listen to his statement, to be honest with you.
Both men and women, all Americans, all warriors. This hearing is for you. Thank you for figuratively and literally having my back.
You are a misogynist. Not only that, you are a Christian Zionist.
You are a Christian Zionist.
I want to thank the authorities for their swift reaction to that outburst and state that similar interruptions will be treated in like manner. Mr. Hegseth, you may continue.
Well, as I'll say again, thank you for figuratively and literally having my back. I pledge to do the same for all.
But have you really tried it? The damn harpy shoes are an embarrassment to women. Sometimes I really hate women in power positions. Yeah.
Of you. It's an honor to come before this committee today as President Donald Trump's nominee for the office of Secretary of Defense. 2 months ago, 77.
Come on. My good friend Andrew, I haven't seen you in so long, Branka. I haven't seen him in so long. Oh my God, I miss having him come around here. Good to see you, brother. This is, if you're unaware, Law of Self-Defense, Andrew Branka, good friend of mine. I hope if you're going to be in D.C., by the way, for the inauguration, let me know and we'll hook up. We'll get together for a beer or something. Because I plan on going down there. I plan on being in D.C. this coming week. I even made a post on Locals about people who are interested. And I was like, I don't think anyone wants to see me. I would have a get together, but I think the ratio of interest to effort, I don't know if it's going to end up working. I was like, I don't know. I think there's 3 people who might show up. And I'm just I don't know. I'm okay with just sort of hanging. And just sort of, meeting people here and there. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with that. But if you're there, Andrew, I'll definitely hook up with you. For sure. Not in the way stupid kids talk of idiots. You filthy minds. But I'd love to grab a beer with you. Ask Lawgic, which is more offensive, the C word or the B? See, I'm not saying they're equal words. She would never use that words. No one in my household would use either of those words. I use the B word occasionally here on the show. So I'm admitting that it's not the same thing because I'll use that word occasionally. And every time I say it, I sort of have some sort of reservation about it. And it's really because, and my sort of logic behind making it apropos is that it's a technical term for a female dog. So okay, it's it actually has a real meaning outside of the derisive context around it. So in that sense, I'll sort of every once in a while I'll throw it out there. Yeah, I don't need to ask her. She wouldn't use either word. In my house, they literally, okay, just so you understand where I'm coming from, okay? Just so you understand where I'm coming from. In my house, the word jerk is verboten. Stupid, verboten. Okay? My kids won't use any of these words. So you're talking about a whole, you think that this is something they're gonna sit there was she really a pirate? What does that mean for Hawaiian Airlines? I don't even know what that means. Let's get back into this.
Million Americans gave President Trump a powerful mandate for change, to put America first, at home and abroad. I want to thank President Trump for his faith in me and his selfless leadership for our republic. The troops have no better commander-in-chief than Donald Trump.
True.
As I've said to many of you in private meetings, when President Trump chose me for this position, the primary charge he gave me was to bring the warrior culture back to the Department of Defense. He, like me, wants a Pentagon laser-focused on lethality, meritocracy, warfighting, accountability, and readiness.
You heard. Only 30 seconds before the room. Very important. Everyone hear me screaming because I'm a very important person.
You may continue, sir.
That's true. I did once say
Returning the Pentagon back to warfighting, that's it. That's my job.
Mr. Hegseth, suspend your remarks. Let me just say this. The Capitol Police are going to remove immediately individuals that are disrupting the hearing. I see a pattern attempted to
say it. Say hi.
Be inflicted on the committee, and we're simply not going to tolerate that. You may proceed.
It's not recreational. I think you can even see that I'm just like slowly hesitant. Like I'm like, there's no other word I could use. I'm like, which just isn't cutting it. Which is not cutting it. And trust me, you have to be a lot more creative to avoid using certain words. It's very, very easy, especially in a comical type of sense. I'm like, I'm handcuffing myself here. I'm handcuffing myself. I understand the comedic value of the occasional F-bomb. I get it. I understand it. But there's certain lines, and Picard told me the line must be drawn here, and that's where I draw it. And I think that B is like right on that line. It's right. That's basically the cutoff right there for me. That's it. Even the word you're talking about language, so we're going to talk about words that sort of like are in the edge part of my lexicon. So ass and jackass are sort of, I think jackass is less, and I would basically say a-hole. I don't know why, but it just seems much worse. Or sometimes just say hole. Yeah. There you go. There, in case you haven't been keeping score at home as to what Joe says and will not say. Now you pretty much have the defining boundary right there. That's the line. And that line is way further over from where the rest of my family, where Lady Lawgic is, that's for sure. Be best in the country, honey. The best in the country, honey. Yes, exactly. Joe needs to be where we're involving Hillary Clinton. Yeah, they say that's you gotta know there's a time and there's a place, and when the time comes, I'll shove it in the right place. For most of human history, when we're allowed to make so societally important decisions. I wonder why. Oh my God. You're trying to get me in trouble already. You're so right. You don't even work, Blue. I don't get it. Don't use be to be mean. Say so, you sow. You sow. I like sow. That's a pretty good call. I like that, Derna. I kind of like that call a lot.
To bring back warfighting, if confirmed, I'm going to work with President Trump and this committee to, one, restore the warrior ethos to the Pentagon and throughout our fighting force.
Sounds good.
In doing so, we will reestablish trust in our military.
Good.
Addressing the recruiting crisis, the retention crisis, and readiness crisis in our ranks.
Members of the security force will remove members.
The tolerant left.
Mr. Hegseth, you and your family have your criticism of your nomination since it was announced in November. Let's get into this allegation about sexual assault, inappropriate workplace behavior, alcohol abuse, and financial mismanagement during your time as a nonprofit executive. I should note that the majority of these have come from anonymous sources in liberal media publications. But I want to give you an opportunity to respond to these allegations, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that opportunity. You are correct. We undertook this responsibility with an obligation to the troops to do right by them for our warfighters. And what became very evident to us from the beginning, there was a coordinated.
So CBS has blockaded the little label there. So whenever he's addressing a particular senator, I'm going to do my best to try and identify that senator for you so you know the name of the person who's questioning them and who they are. This is Republican Senate. This is the chairman committee. This is the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Roger Wicker, who's the Republican from Mississippi.
Smear campaign orchestrated in the media against us. That was clear from moment one. And what we knew is that it wasn't about me. Most of it was about President Donald Trump, who's had to endure the very same thing for much longer amounts of time. And he endured it incredibly strong ways. So we, in some ways, knew it was coming. We didn't understand the depth of the dishonesty that would come with it. So from story after story in the media, left-wing media, we saw anonymous source after anonymous source based on second or third-hand accounts. And time again, stories would come out and people would reach out to
Now, this is important. When he looks to his left, that is the right, that side of the dais is the Republican side of the dais, as opposed to now he's looking to the Democrat side. At the end of the day, he needs 50 votes. That's it. He might need 51. I think for confirmation, I'm wondering if Trump, if Vance can serve as the tiebreaker. I think he probably can serve as the tiebreaker, but yeah. So he really can afford to lose. There's 53, so he can afford to lose 3 senators in a particular vote, and that's it. So you're really looking to see his support from that side. You know, everyone on the other side is going to oppose it. You know that already. So really, when they're talking, unless I know there's something exciting coming, I don't really care much about it. In fact, what I really care about is the people from the Republicans who seem kind of on the fence. And they're the ones I really want to focus on more than the other ones, because those are the ones whose vote he needs.
Me and say, you know, I've spoken to this reporter about who you really are, and I was willing to go on the record. But they didn't print my quote.
That's what this was.
They didn't print any of my quotes.
Okay. Now,
or I've worked with you for 10 years, or I was your accountant, or I was your chief operating officer, or I was your board member, or I was with you on 100 different tour stops for Concerned Veterans for America. No one called me. No one asked about your conduct on the record or off the record. Instead, a small handful of anonymous sources were allowed to drive a smear campaign, an agenda about me, because our left-wing media in America today, sadly, doesn't care about the truth. All they were out to do, Mr. Chairman, was to destroy me. And why do they want to destroy me? Because I'm a change agent and a threat to them, because Donald Trump was willing to choose me, to empower me, to bring the Defense Department back to what it really should be, which is warfighting.
And this is a winning argument for him, because the right side of the aisle that he's appealing to, they see the success. This has worked. This argument, as far as like they're all fake news, has worked for Trump rather effectively. And it's only because they're all fake news, because it's true. They are all fake news. So it sort of works the leftist media has just so destabilized their own credibility that even if there was some elements of truth to this, not that I think that there is. The only thing I think there could potentially be some truth to is the mismanagement claims. All the sexual assault stuff, I've covered that on this channel. It's hot garbage, like terribly embarrassing that a person would bother making these claims type of garbage. The drunkenness, I don't know. I don't know much about. I don't really think it should be that much. That should be that big a factor. You know, if you think that he's going to get drunk, you know, if you really think he's going to go out there and get drunk as Secretary of Defense, I have a hard time buying it. It kind of seems like he's able to hold a job, you know. So I'm not saying he's never had any sort of issues at all, but especially with him committing to not drinking, which he has done. In that case, I don't really see that being such a big deal. This person who's come up on the screen here, in case you're wondering, well, who's this clown? So that is the Senate Minority Leader. What's this guy's name? I forgot his name. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna find it. Jack Reed. Jack Reed, Democrat from Rhode Island. This guy is going to be Senate Minority Leader Jack Reed, who's going to be very aggressive in anticipation of him voting no here. So, but it's good to see him handle the aggression. I like seeing that. O'Keefe had an awesome undercover interview today with a dude named Menina, who worked for the Department of Defense. He met with admirals to figure out how to stop Trump. He was fired. Nice. Why B or C? Say shrilling, contemptuous hag. Not bad. I got to remember these now and just sort of throw them out there off the tip of my tongue. Shrilling, contemptuous hag is a little long. Pocahontas. I don't have to read the name of who writes it when it starts with Pocahontas. Was frosted face today by Hegseth when she tried to humiliate him. The others tried, but he didn't take the bait. Dumbassery. Yeah. Job interview in front of millions. Wow. They all got to do it. Anyone who's going to be confirmed.
But the other factor, too, is you've already disparaged in writing the Geneva Convention, the rules of law, all of these things. How will you be able to effectively lead a military in which one of the principal elements is discipline, respect for lawful authority? You have made statements to your platoon after being briefed by a JAG officer. Well, by the way, would you explain what a JAG off is?
I love this moment. I love this moment. He asks him to explain what a jag-off is. This is great. This is perfect for a whole conversation about words. So yeah, he asks him, okay, so now look at Pete's brain here, being like, how do I explain what a jag-off is? How do I answer this question? This clown over here knows the answer to the question. And this is Pete Hegseth doing his best. This is just awesome the way he answers this. Can you explain what a jag-off is?
I don't think I need to, sir.
I don't think.
Why not?
Why not?
Because the men and women watching understand.
Well, perhaps some of my colleagues don't understand.
You see, this loser is trying to trip him up. He's trying to trip him off. Because we all know what jag-off is supposed to mean. I kind of like that's a term I would use, jag-off. That's a pretty good one. Jag-off.
It would be a JAG officer who puts his or her own priorities in front of the warfighters.
Bam! Nice! Nice! Awesome! Awesome! Awesome answer! Brilliant! Brilliant! What's a jag-off? Oh, someone who puts his own priorities in front of the war efforts. Look at that face from Reed. Reed is like, crap. You gave a really great answer there. That's such a freaking great answer. Oh my God, genius. Amazing answer. Amazing.
Promotions, their medals in front of having the backs of those who are making the tough calls on the front lines.
Thank you, Senator Reed.
Interesting.
Thank you, Senator
Thank
Reed.
you very much.
I thought
Amazing. Amazing. That is genius. It's to think that quickly on his feet there. To me, that's one of the best endorsements I've seen. His answer to that question right there. You're probably wondering who this clown is. This is Jean Shaheen. Jean Shaheen. We're going to spend a little time watching Jean Shaheen. She's a Democrat from New Hampshire. Jean Shaheen.
it would be really helpful to better understand your views on women in the military.
About women in the military.
Because you've made a number of surprising statements about women serving in the military.
Just frank.
as recently as November the 7th of 2024 on the Sean Ryan Show, you said, and I quote, "I'm straight up saying that we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective." The quote went on a little longer, but that was the gist of it. That was before you were nominated to be Secretary of Defense. Mr. Hegseth, do you know what percentage of our military is comprised of women?
I believe it's 18 to 20%, Senator.
It's almost 18%. And in fact, DOD's 2023 demographic report indicated that there are more women serving now and there are fewer separations. So they make up a critical part of our military. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, ma'am. Women in our military, as I have said publicly, have and continue to make amazing contributions across all aspects of our battlefield.
Well, you also write in your book, The War on Warriors, with the chapter, The Deadly Obsession with Women Warriors, that, quote, "Not only are women comparatively less effective than men in combat roles, but they are more likely to be objectified by the enemy and their own nation in the moral realms of war." Mr. Hegseth, should we take it to believe that you believe that the two women on this committee who have served honorably and with distinction made our military less effective and less capable?
And were you sent here by Satan? Oh my gosh. She actually stole the outfit straight from Church Lady. And she's sitting here trying to impugn him and trip him up. You'll see that Pete Hegseth is not a guy who trips easily. This guy can dance.
I'm incredibly grateful for the two women who've served our military in uniform and including in the Central Intelligence Agency, contributions on the battlefield, indispensable contributions. Senator, I would like to clarify, when I'm talking about that issue, it's not about the capabilities of men and women, it's about standards. And this committee has talked a lot about standards that we unfortunately over time have seen eroded in certain duty positions, certain schools, certain places, which affects readiness, which is what I care about the most. Readiness on the battlefield. I appreciate that. And so to my comments point time and time again to standards.
Your statements publicly have not been to that effect. After your nomination, you did state to a group of reporters that you, quote, "support all women serving in our military today who do a fantastic job across the globe, including combat."
And by the way, those statements that he made, to the degree that he made them, he can't get away from his statements, and qualifying them the way he is really the most effective way for him to address this area of attack that he's going to be getting from both sides of the aisle. We're going to see Joni Ernst bringing up similar type of issues. And she's Republican side of the aisle. She's one of the votes he needs. So that is his approach to dealing with this in general.
So what I'm confused about, Mr. Hegseth, is which is it? Why should women in our military, if you were the Secretary of Defense, believe that they would have a fair shot and an equal opportunity to rise through the ranks? If on the one hand, you say that women are not competent, they make our military less effective. And on the other hand, you say, oh no, now that I've been nominated to be the Secretary of Defense, I've changed my view on women in the military. What do you have to say to the almost 400,000 women who are serving today about your position on whether they should be capable to rise through the highest ranks of our military?
When did he say she's like?
Senator, I would say I would be honored to have the opportunity to serve alongside you, shoulder to shoulder, men and women, black, white, all backgrounds, with a shared purpose. Our differences are not what define us. Our unity and our shared purpose is what define us, and you will be treated fairly and with dignity, honor, and respect, just like every man and woman in uniform, just like the men and women that I've worked with in my veterans organizations, to include when I was a headquarters and headquarters company commander in the Minnesota National Guard.
Well, I appreciate your 11th hour conversion. But
everything he's saying there is something that is you can't really dispute. There's nothing controversial about his position as he's framing it here. She's trying to sit here and saying, you said these things, you said, at the end of the day, he's doing a very effective job of portraying utter reasonableness for, Americans who are interested in having the most battle-ready army possible. If I had $1 every time you could smell the hangovers at PT formation early morning, I would have left the Army a millionaire. Jagoff is you, sir. Meg Kelly debunked the money mismanagement claims. I'll try and find that. Why does Reed resemble a blowfish? I don't know. I'm just telling you it's Reed. That's his name. Does anyone remember Jessica Dawn Lynch, who was captured and hard at the beginning of the war? Hegseth does, and that's what he remembers. I had forgotten that. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I would like to submit Chapter 5, The Deadly Obsession with Women Warriors, for the record.
Totally surrounded.
Mr. Hegseth,
But without objection, it will be submitted. and
are you
accepted.
familiar with the Women, Peace, and Security agenda at the Department of Defense?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
This is a law that was signed during President-elect Trump's first term. It was legislation that I sponsored with Republican Senator Capito of West Virginia. It was co-sponsored by Marco Rubio, the nominee to be the President-elect's Secretary of State. It was led in the House of Representatives by Kristi Noem, the President-elect's nominee to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. It mandates that women be included in all aspects of our national security, including conflict resolution and peace negotiations. And at the Department of Defense, it has been the law for 8 years under both the Trump and Biden administrations. The DoD has incorporated women throughout its decision-making as a result. Every single combatant commander across 2 administrations has told this committee that this law and its implementation at the Department of Defense provides them a strategic advantage operationally. Based on your comments, it appears that the example that you would like to set, not only for women in this country, but for women across the globe, 50% of the world's population, as the prospective nominee to lead the most combat-credible military in the entire world, is that women should not have an equal opportunity in our military. So will you commit
such a thing? No one ever thought such a thing. This is, even when he's saying they shouldn't be in combat, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be at the upper echelons of strategy and planning. That's not even implying that. But they're trying to just blanket smear him because, well, he's Trump's nominee.
to preserving the Women, Peace, and Security law at DoD and including in your budget the requisite funding to continue to restore and resource these programs throughout the DoD?
Senator, I will commit to reviewing that program and ensuring it aligns with America First national security priorities, meritocracy, lethality, and readiness. And if it advances American interests, it's something we would advance. If it doesn't, it's something we would look at.
Since former President Trump signed the law, I hope that he agrees with you.
Mr. Hegseth, let's continue on this line of questioning about what's sometimes referred to as women in combat. I think that phrase is something of a misnomer. Many members of this committee.
Is Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton is Republican from Arkansas. He's a Hegseth fan.
Have served in combat in the last 25 years, to include women and men. I'm sure all those men served with women, whether they were military police officers or they were.
He's not what MAGA would consider to be a perfect senator, but he's definitely ranks in the top 15. He's definitely more towards the good ones than the bad ones.
Or pilots, or whether they were intelligence analysts or medics or what have you. You served. I assume you served with women who were on the front lines as well. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And were those women anything other than skilled, brave, and honorable in their service?
They were some of the best soldiers I worked with, Senator.
So women have been serving in combat for a long time. Women have even been serving in combat units like infantry battalions for a long time, in roles like medics or mechanics or what have you. So what we're talking about here specifically is women in ground combat roles in jobs like infantrymen or artillerymen or special forces. Until about 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. Under Secretary Panetta, those roles were opened up to women to serve in.
In every conversation.
Has President Trump indicated at all that he plans to rescind or alter that guidance?
You're correct to point out, Senator, that these are the decisions that the Commander-in-Chief will have the prerogative to make. He has not indicated to me that he has plans to change whether or not women would have access to these roles. However, I would point out, ensuring that standards are equal and high is of importance to him and great importance to me. Because in those ground combat roles, what is true is that the weight of the ruck on your back doesn't change. The weight of the 155 round that you have to carry doesn't change. The weight of the 240 Bravo machine gun you might have to carry doesn't change. And so whether it's a man or a woman, they have to meet the same high standards. And Senator, in any place where those things have been eroded or in courses, criteria have been changed in order to meet quotas, racial quotas or gender quotas, that is putting a focus on something other than readiness, standards, meritocracy, and lethality. So that's the kind of review I'm talking about, not whether women have access to ground combat.
Okay, so thank you. We've got a big audience here. Many of them seem to be patriotic supporters of you, Mr. Hegseth. Some of them seem to be liberal critics of you. I would note that it's only the liberal critics that have disrupted this hearing. As was my custom during the Biden administration, I want to give you a chance to respond to what they said about you. I think the first one accused you of being a Christian Zionist. I'm not really sure why that is a bad thing. I'm a Christian. I'm a Zionist. Zionism is that the Jewish people deserve a homeland in the ancient Holy Land where they've lived since the dawn of history. Do you consider yourself a Christian Zionist?
Senator, I'm a Christian, and I robustly support the state of Israel and its existential defense, and the way America comes alongside them is a great ally.
Thank you. Because another protester, and I think this one was a member of Code Pink, which, by the way, is a Chinese Communist front group these days, said that you support Israel's war in Gaza. I support Israel's existential war in Gaza. I assume, like me and President Trump, you support that war as well, don't you?
Senator, I do. I support Israel destroying and killing every last member of Hamas.
And the third protester said something about 20 years of genocide. I assume that's our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Do you think our troops are committing genocide in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Senator, I do not. I think our troops, as you know, as so many in this committee know, did the best they could with what they had. The outcomes, and tragically, the outcome we saw in Afghanistan under the Biden administration put a stain on that, but it doesn't put a stain on what those men and women did in uniform, as you know full well, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth.
I have many concerns about your record.
Okay, now I need to give you a little bit of a warning before we get to Senator Gillibrand over here. This is Kirsten Gillibrand from New York, Democratic senator. I need to give you a screech warning here. There's a lot of screeching that you're about to hear. A lot of screeching and shrillness. What am I supposed to say? Joe gave it to me before. What was it? Shrilling, contemptuous hag alert. So you have now the shrilling, contemptuous hag alert for Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. You've been warned.
Particularly your public statements, because they are so hurtful to the men and women who are currently serving in the U.S. military, harmful to morale, harmful to good order and discipline. If you are saying that women shouldn't be serving in the military, and I'm going to read you your quotes because the quotes themselves are terrible.
Terrible.
You will have to change how you see women to do this job well.
Women?
And I don't know if you are capable of that. So I want to press on these issues.
This is all of a sudden we know what a woman is now. Wow, that's amazing. You know what a woman is now. That's great. You're much smarter than Ketanji Brown Jackson. You have to change how you see women. I don't understand what this even means. There's such hypocrisy from this group.
That my colleague Jean Shaheen brought up because she said it so well.
So
well, first of all, you answered your questionnaire. Do you believe that any American who wants to serve in their country in the military and can meet objective standards set by the military should be allowed to serve without limitation? You've said yes to that question. But then in all of these other circumstances, you've denigrated active duty service members. We have hundreds of women who are currently in the infantry, lethal members of our military serving in the infantry, but you degrade them. You say, we need moms, but not in the military, especially in combat units. So specific to Senator Cotton's question, because Senator Cotton was giving you layups to differentiate between different types of combat. And specifically, As secretary, would you take any action to reinstitute the combat arms exclusion for female service members, knowing full well you have hundreds of women doing that job right now? And the standards, your 2 mile run, Tom, is about the Army combat fitness test. It is not the requirements to have an MOS 11 Bravo, which is the infantry. These are the requirements today for people serving in the industry, men and women. They are gender neutral, and they are very difficult to meet. They have not been reduced in any way, and our combat units, our infantry is lethal. So please explain specifically, because you will be in charge of 3 million personnel. It is a big job. And when you make these public statements, and I get you were not Secretary of Defense then, I get you were on TV, I get you were helping veterans, I get it was a different job. But most recently, you said this in November of 2024, knowing full well you might have been named as Secretary of Defense. So please explain these types of statements, because they're brutal and they're mean and they disrespect men and women who are willing to die for this country.
Well, Senator, I appreciate your comments, and I would point out I've never disparaged women serving in the military. I respect every single female service member that has put on the uniform, past and present. My critiques, Senator, recently and in the past, and from personal experience, have been instances where I've seen standards lowered, and you mentioned 11 Alpha, 11 Bravo, MOS, places in units, and the book that has been referenced multiple times here, The War on Warriors. I spent months talking to active duty service members, men and women, low ranks, high ranks, combat arms and not combat arms. And what each and every one of them told me, and which personal instances have shown me, is that in ways direct, indirect, overt, and subtle, standards have been changed inside infantry training units, Ranger School, infantry battalions, to ensure that
Give me one example. Please give me an example. I get you're making these generalized
meet
statements.
Quotas to have a certain number of female infantry officers or infantry enlisted, and that disparages those women.
Commanders do not have to meet quotas for the infantry. Commanders do not have to have a quota for women in the infantry. That does not exist. It does not exist.
He didn't say that. He said there are quotas that they have to reach in general. That's what he said. He never said quotas for women. He said quotas in general for recruitment. He didn't say quotas for women. Why are you mischaracterizing what he just testified about?
And your statements are creating the impression that these exist, because they do not. There are not quotas. We want the most lethal force. But I'm telling you, having been here for 15 years, listening to testimony about men and women in combat and the type of operations that were successful in Afghanistan and in Iraq, women were essential for many of those units. When Ranger units went in to find where the terrorists hiding in Afghanistan or in Iraq, if they had a woman in the unit, they could go in, talk to the women in a village, say, where are the terrorists hiding? Where are the weapons hiding? And get crucial information to make sure that we can win that battle. So you cannot denigrate women in general, and your statements do that. We don't want women in the military, especially in combat. What a terrible statement. So please, do not deny that you've made those statements. You have. We take the responsibility of standards very seriously, and we will work with you. I'm equally distressed. You would not meet with me before this hearing. We could have covered all of this before you came here.
No, because you're irrelevant. You're irrelevant. That's basically the reality. You're distressed that you're irrelevant. That's what you're distressed about. You're distressed that there's only 47 of you.
Could get to the 15 other questions that I want to get to. So women, you have denigrated. You have also denigrated members of the LGBTQ community. Did you know that when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in place, we lost so many crucial personnel, over 1,000 in mission critical areas. We lost 10% of all our foreign language speakers because of a political policy. You said in your statement, you don't want politics in the DOD. Everything you've said in these public statements is politics. I don't want women. I don't want moms. What's wrong with a mom, by the way? Once you have babies, you therefore are no longer able to be lethal. I mean, you're basically saying women after they have children can't ever serve in the military in a combat role. It's a silly thing to say. It's a silly thing to say beneath the position that you are aspiring to. To denigrate LGBTQ service members is a mistake. If you are a sharpshooter, you're as lethal regardless of what your gender identity is, regardless of who you love. So please know this to be a true statement. So you say it was a political thing. You say it undermined us, social engineering. I don't know why someone having to publicly say or not publicly say who they love is social engineering. I think having that policy in the first place was highly problematic. And as you said in your statement, do you agree anybody should be able to serve in the military if they meet the standards?
Senator, as the president has stated, I don't disagree with the overturn of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Great, because I don't want you thinking, can't serve if you're a mom, can't serve if you're LGBTQ, and then last, can't serve if you're a leftist. The statements you said about people who have views differently than you, that we're the enemy, are you saying that 50% of the DOD, if they hold liberal views or leftist views or are Democrats, are not welcome in the military? Are you saying that?
Senator, I volunteered to deploy to Afghanistan under Democrat President Barack Obama. I also volunteered to guard the inauguration of Joe Biden, but was denied the opportunity to serve because I was identified as an extremist by my own unit for a Christian tattoo.
I want to talk about financial mismanagement.
Whoa. Oh, he has a Christian tattoo, so he's identified as being an extremist. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This walking corpse that you're about to hear from is Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut. So he's someone who don't matter either. He don't matter either. I'm going to play him a little faster. We'll play him at 1 1/4 speed just so we can move along here. I'll play him a little faster because this is a little bit. In fact, you know what? Instead of doing that, let's just skip him. He's boring. This is a boring. I watched this exchange. It's pretty boring. We don't need this. We don't need to watch this part. We can skip past Richard Blumenthal. But he is a walking corpse. He's Methuselah's older brother, and somehow keeps getting reelected. But oh my God, how much dye they had to put in that hair! Unbelievable, unbelievable. Let's get to Joni Ernst. Joni Ernst, I want to give proper time to, because Joni Ernst is a Republican from Iowa, and her vote is necessary. Her vote is important. Her vote matters. She's one of the 53 he's trying to woo.
And enable them to come forward.
Senator, I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
But you would submit to it and support it.
This is him asking, he's asking Pete Hegseth, would you submit to having an FBI background check, which he's an idiot if he says yes today. Because that's opening him up. Maybe next week. I don't know. Maybe. But not today.
I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
I'm not in charge of checks. But I asked you if you would agree to have one. I'm not in charge of those checks. Yeah, I know you're not in charge of them. If you were in charge of them, then we would need to have them. That's not the question. He's just like, I'm not answering that question. I'm not in charge of those checks. Right. But would you agree to have? I'm not in charge of them. That's what you call a nice kind of like just blank stare kind of stonewalling of like, I don't even understand what you're asking. Which is the only thing he can do there. There's nothing else he can do there. What she has not listened to is the enlisted and low rank officers. Apparently not. OMG, this oogly C word. Damn YouTube filters. The reason he didn't Democrats because they have a smell of fire and brimstone.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal.
Good morning, Mr. Hegseth, and thank you very much.
This is Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, Republican, who he needs her vote.
I appreciate your service to our nation. It's something that I know you are very proud of, and it is something that we have in common.
She's a real neocon, by the way. It's a shame that Iowa has such a poor choice for senator.
And that we share. You and I have had many productive conversations. And just for our audience, we have had very frank conversations. Is that correct, Mr. Hegseth?
Senator, that is a correct characterization.
You know that I don't keep anything hidden, pull no punches. My colleagues know that as well. So I do appreciate you sitting down and allowing me the opportunity to question you thoroughly on those issues that are of great importance to me.
See, I was just going to refer to her as being like a tough ass B. And then I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to use that word. Let me use sow. But sow doesn't mean the same thing. It really doesn't mean the same thing. It's just, the struggle's real.
Just to recap those issues, 3 that are very important. One is the DOD and making sure that we have a clean audit. The second is women in combat, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And the third was maintaining high standards and making sure that we are combating sexual assault in the military. Okay, so Mr. Hegseth, I'm going to address the issue because this will tie into some of the financial concerns that have been raised here as well. And it's why, I, trusting my fellow Iowan, asked for unanimous consent of his letter to go into the record. But like me, a lot of Iowans are really, really concerned and upset about the wasteful Washington spending and of course in our Pentagon. It's an issue that I have been combating for years. So there's significant room for greater efficiency and cost cutting within the department. And the DOD is the only federal agency that has never passed an audit. As the Senate DOJ caucus chair and founder, that's unacceptable to me, and it should be unacceptable to you as well. So I appreciate that you mentioned that in your opening statement. What are those steps that you will take to ensuring the Pentagon has a clean audit by the year 2028?
Senator, I appreciate your work on this topic, which you've been involved in for a long time. You mentioned Concerned Veterans for America. I just want to clarify. We have very generous donors who set a very clear budget that we stuck to every single year. So the latitude there was restricted, and we worked very hard and diligently inside it. You've also been a leader on the Pentagon audit for a very long time. I think when we met, Senator, I said 2014 was the first year. Mm-hmm. We discovered a 2013 op-ed I wrote about the need for a Pentagon audit because an audit is an issue of national security and frankly, respect to American taxpayers who give $850 billion over to the Defense Department and expect that we know where that money goes. And if that money is going somewhere that doesn't add to tooth and instead goes to fat or tail, we need to know that. Or if it's wasted, we need to know that. So I think previous secretaries of defense, with all due respect, haven't necessarily emphasized the strategic prerogative of an audit. And myself, my deputy SecDef, and others already know that a Pentagon audit will be the comptroller, others central to ensuring we find those dollars that can be used elsewhere legally under the law inside the Pentagon. So you have my word, it will be a priority.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to women in combat. And I had the privilege of serving in uniform for over 23 years. Between our Army Reserves and our Iowa Army National Guard, did serve in Kuwait and missions in Iraq. And so it is incredibly important that I stress, and I hope that if confirmed, you continue to stress that every man and woman has opportunity to serve their country in uniform and do so at any level as long as they are meeting the standards that are set forward. And we talked about that in my office. I do believe in high standards. Now, I was denied the opportunity to serve in any combat role because I have a lot of gray hair. And the policy has changed since then, okay? So I've been around for quite a while. But for the young women that are out there now and can meet those standards, and again, I'll emphasize they should be very, very high standards. They must physically be able to achieve those standards so that they can complete their mission. But I want to know, again, let's make it very clear for everyone here today, As Secretary of Defense, will you support women continuing to have the opportunity to serve in combat roles?
Senator, first of all, thank you for your service, as we discussed extensively as well.
It's my privilege.
And my answer is yes, exactly the way that you caveated it. Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles, given the standards remain high, and we'll have a review to ensure the standards have not been eroded in any one of these cases. That'll be part of one of the first things we do at the Pentagon, is reviewing that in a gender neutral way, the standards, ensuring readiness and meritocracy is front and center. But absolutely, it would be the privilege of a lifetime to, if confirmed, to be the Secretary of Defense for all men and women in uniform who fight so heroic. They have so many other options. They decide to put their right hand up for our country. And it would be an honor to have a chance to lead them.
Thank you. And just very briefly, we only have less than a minute left, but we have also discussed this in my office. A priority of mine has been combating sexual assault in the military and making sure that all of our service members are treated with dignity and respect. This has been so important. Senator Gillibrand and I have worked on this, and we were able to get changes made to the Uniform Code of Military Justice to make sure that we have improvements and on how we address the tragic and life-altering issues of rape, sexual assault. It will demand time and attention from the Pentagon under your watch if you are confirmed. So as Secretary of Defense, will you appoint a senior level official dedicated to sexual assault prevention and response?
Senator, as we have discussed, yes, I will.
I am focused.
Now, before we get to Mazie Hirono, Democrat from Hawaii, Mazie Hirono, who, according to Andrew Branca, I don't know if he's saying this seriously or it's a joke, but many people don't understand Mazie Hirono used to be a pilot for Hawaiian Airlines. I don't know if that's serious or a joke. I don't know if Hawaiian Airlines has that. But before we get to that, and before we leave, Senator Joni Ernst, a couple of people have correctly pointed out. I didn't want to ruin it by pulling this up. Ernst said today she's voting for Pete. Indeed, people in know say Ernst is a yes vote. In fact, I have over here. Where are you? I'm thinking it's this one. Yes.
So to have someone that...
This is Senator Joni Ernst after she had that exchange in today's hearing.
Is willing to cut through that and get back to where we're focusing on readiness for our men and women, because Simon, that's an important part for me, is that we recognize that women do have an important role in our military. And so he was adequately able to answer all of my questions. He pointed out the woke issues at the Pentagon. And I think we're at a point where now we can start moving forward. People know where he stands on these issues.
Yep.
So I felt it was a good hearing.
I thought it was a good hearing for him. Does he have your vote?
I am breaking news, Simon. I figured you would ask this. So yes, I will be supporting President Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. So to have someone
that is huge news, because she's one who was on the fence. She was one of the 53 who was the most in danger of crossing over to the dark side and voting against him. So that vote is a very important vote he won. That vote alone makes today a good day. That vote alone makes today a good day. That means he won today. He won her vote. That's huge. Unfortunately, she wields power, and she's one who he's got to make sure that she's gonna give the nod. So good on you, Pete, that you managed to secure her vote. Let's hear from Senator Mazie Hirono.
On your fitness to serve, including your character and temperament and your overall qualifications to do the job. And I do.
I understand she's Hawaiian. I get that. But to me, she always sounds like she's drunk. And the way she asks questions, that she makes it very clear that she's reading from a paper, is just very off-putting. It's very off-putting because it comes across, I think, as if I'm not even listening to what you're saying. I'm just doing what I'm just plowing through here. It's a very self-involved way. If you hear the tone in which she asks her questions, she just comes across as just very. It's like you're in your own little la-la land. Like, what the hell are you doing here? You're in a freaking publicly aired Senate confirmation hearing, and you're asking these questions as if you're reading them for the first time. And maybe she is. Maybe her staff put them together. I don't know. But her intellect has been questioned many a time, and for good reason.
I do appreciate the comments of Ranking Member Reed with his concerns regarding your nomination, because I share those concerns. As part of my responsibility as a member of this committee to ensure the fitness of all nominees to come before any of the committees on which I sit, I ask the following two initial questions. First, since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
What the hell is that even? I don't know what this means. That's such a ridiculously broad question. But since you become an adult, I don't know. Let's hear how he dances with this. Look at that. Look at those eyes. Oh my God. She's like, I'm not going to believe anything you're about to say to me anyway.
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
No, here we go into the settlement. See, let me get into the whole settlement.
Senator, I was falsely accused in October of 2017. It was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared.
I don't think completely cleared is accurate, but
it was completely cleared. It was. The woman waited 5 days to get a kit to establish her attack, and she had a relationship with someone else in between. So yeah, and everything we discussed about this incident, those of you who saw my show covering this shortly after he was first announced by Trump as his Secretary of Defense pick, and I spent a whole night breaking down these claims. And if you review that show, you'll see. And I can't synopsis it. I can't give in synopsis a full enough picture as to how ridiculous those claims were. But some of the ridiculous elements to it was that, the woman seemed to purposefully be trying to create a civil suit, and she was cheating on her husband. And when that clearly got exposed, so she was at a convention with him, basically did this whole pull my hair type of thing where she marches up to him and says, I don't like some of your positions about women. And then the next 10 minutes later is sleeping with him, and then claiming that, she's, claiming that she wanted to leave and he didn't let her. And he's like, that's crap. That never happened. And meanwhile, her husband is texting her from a different room in the hotel, and she's basically stringing him along. And then she goes back and ends up having coitus with her husband. And then 4 days after, meaning she has coitus with Pete, then with her husband. And then 4 days later goes to get some kit and then commences a suit. I don't know what the point is to having a kit taken 4 days after the fact when you've had relationship with someone else in between. You admit that you had sex in between. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. There's nothing that kit would show which would establish 2 guys ago what happened. Stupid. The only reason you do that is to try and create a situation where you're able to pretend that you have some sort of claim there. I had to get tested because I don't get it. It's like you would if he really attacked you, if he really was forcing you, compelling you, you would have gone that night. You wouldn't have waited 4 days. You certainly wouldn't have had sex in between. You would have been, There's so much about her story which was ridiculous. And the fact that he ends up signing a non-disclosure agreement and reaching a settlement with her rather than dragging that out, that's actually probably a financial decision that he made back in 2017 when this thing happened.
The fact is that your own lawyer said that you entered into an NDA and paid a person who accused you of raping her a sum of money to make sure that she did not file a complaint.
No, she had filed a complaint, idiot. It was to settle the suit, loser, moron, ignorance.
Moving on.
I don't think she's a... Moving on. I'm going to make my statement and then just moving on. I'm going to make my stupid, empty, ridiculous statement and then say moving on as if now we just reached some sort of conclusion. I hate people who do that. I'm going to ask you a question, have you answer it, then just lie about what my position is on it and then say moving on. What are you, testifying, you jackass? You're not testifying. You're supposed to be asking questions, idiot.
As secretary, you will be in charge of maintaining good order and discipline by enforcing the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ. In addition to the sexual assault allegations, and by the way, the answer to my second question should have been yes. I have read multiple reports of your regularly being drunk at work.
Like she doesn't sound drunk right now at work. She slurs.
Including by people who worked with you at Fox News. Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Do you know that being drunk at work is prohibited for service members under the UCMJ?
Senator, those
Yes
are
or no?
multiple false anonymous reports peddled by NBC
Do you
News
know that
run directly
drinking on the job
contradictory to
is
the dozens of men and women at
not
Fox News
contemplated
Channel
and
who I work with
I'm
who
not
came
hearing
on
the
the
answer to my
record.
question.
I'm not hearing answer to your question because you ignore his answer and then you just start testifying on your own. So he's right for doing this because you basically are asking him you're asking him stupid questions and then you sit there testifying and then say moving on. So why the hell would why would he waste his time actually answering the question that you're asking? You have to treat people with respect even if you have the opportunity to question them. This is a bitch, okay? There's no other word for it. I'm sorry. Sal doesn't cut it. Shrilling, screeching, whatever, doesn't cut. She's just a grade A bitch. She's an ignorant, stupid, moronic bitch. There's no other word. That's Senator Mazie Hirono.
Said
in your opening statement, Mr. Hegseth, you commit to holding leaders accountable at all levels. That includes you, of course. And
what the hell are you talking about? It's like she's talking to herself on the record.
A question.
And said
in your opening statement, Mr. Hegseth, you commit to holding leaders accountable at all levels. That includes you, of course. And frankly, as secretary, you will be on the job 24/7. You recently promised some of my Republican colleagues that you stopped drinking and won't drink if confirmed, correct?
Absolutely.
Will you resign as Secretary of Defense if you drink on the job, which is a 24/7 position?
Tell me that you don't want the Eagle fans screaming at her now. Tell me you don't. Tell me you don't want him, that there's never a time? Is there really never a time? Never? Never a time? Sometimes there's nothing else appropriate. There's nothing more appropriate than the UC.
Made this commitment on behalf of
Will you
men and women I'm
resign as
serving.
Secretary of Defense
I've
if
made this
you
commitment
drink
on
on the
behalf
job?
of the men and women I'm serving.
I'm not
because it's the
hearing-
most important deployment.
Will you resign? God. She should ask Slick Willie Clinton those questions. Yeah, she's not asking that. She's not asking that. The elastic bands have stretched into the sock up her neck, so the puppeteer slurs the words probably. How do you? That's racist. She looks like Pat Morita and. Oh, Pete's on. Oh my God, that's not right.
I'm not hearing an answer to my question, so I'm going to move on. While you have made that commitment, you will not commit to resigning if you drink on the job.
You're such a loser. You're such an idiot.
As Secretary of Defense, you will swear an oath to the Constitution and not an oath to any man, woman, or president, correct?
Senator, on multiple occasions, including as a young second lieutenant, I have sworn an oath to the Constitution,
yes.
and I'm proud to do so.
The reason, by the way, that's such a stupid question is because even though he's on the clock 24/7, that doesn't mean that he's never going to have any vacation. I mean, do you really want him working without any vacation for 4 years? Is that what you want? Is that what the president does? I mean, it's such a stupid question. It's such a ridiculous question. So if you ever have a drink anytime in the next 4 years, will you resign? It's like I'm trying to get a gotcha question. This is not trying to get to truth. It's not trying to vet him whether or not he's appropriate. This is a matter of trying to gotcha him, that's just like it's. There's no other word. You see. That's it. You see.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
In June of 2020, then President Trump directed former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper to shoot protesters in the legs in downtown DC, an order Secretary Esper refused to comply with. Would you carry out such an order from President Trump?
Senator, I was in the Washington, D.C. National Guard unit that was in Lafayette Square during those
events. Would you carry out an order to shoot protesters in the legs?
I saw 50 Secret Service agents get injured by rioters trying to jump over the fence, set the church on fire, and destroy
You know what? That sounds to me that you will comply with such an order. You will shoot protesters in the leg. Moving on. President-elect has attacked our allies in recent weeks, refusing to rule out using military force to take over Greenland and the Panama Canal, and threatening to make Canada the 51st state. Would you carry out an order from President Trump to seize Greenland, a territory of our NATO ally Denmark, by force, or would you comply with an order to take over the Panama Canal?
Senator, I will emphasize that President Trump received 77 million.
What's her question here? Would you refuse to take Greenland or Panama Canal because those are controlled by our allies? So give us your whole strategy right here. Just lay it out right here as to what. Such a stupid question. This is such a dunderhead.
Million votes to be the lawful commander.
We're not talking about the election. My question is, would you use our military to take over Greenland or an ally of Denmark?
Senator, one of the things that President Trump is so good at.
An ally of Denmark, you idiot. It's a territory controlled by our ally Denmark, you ignorant jackass. Everything about this woman is so heinous, nasty, and useless.
Of Denmark?
Senator, one of the things that President Trump is so good at is never strategically tipping his hand. And so I would never in this public forum give one way or another direct what orders the president.
See, this is the right thing that he's saying here. I'm going to go back because I don't want the horn to bother some of you, but Liz deserved the horn for this comment.
Senator, one of the things that President Trump is so good at is never strategically tipping his hand. And so I would never in this public forum give one way or another direct what orders the president would give me in any context.
That sounds to me that you would contemplate carrying out such an order to.
Yeah, as he should. As he should. As commander-in-chief. You're not the president, loser. You guys lost. So, yeah, if that's what the commander-in-chief orders, he should.
To basically invade Greenland and take over the Panama Canal. Current DoD policy allows service members and eligible dependents to be reimbursed for travel associated with non-covered reproductive health care, including abortions. Will you maintain this common sense policy?
Senator, I've always been personally pro-life. I know President Trump has as well, and we will review all policies, but our standard is whatever the president wants on this particular issue. So, with my advice, I will take a look at.
If the president tells you that this common sense policy will not be maintained, you will not enable our service members to seek reproductive care.
It's not reproductive care. It's killing fetus care. So, yeah, he's the commander-in-chief. He's the one who sets the standards. Idiot.
So
I don't believe the federal government.
I'm not hearing answers to my questions, Mr. Chairman. I just want to note that the other area that of serious concern to me is President Trump saying that he wants to use the military to help with mass deportations, which will cost billions of dollars. And what that will do to readiness is very...
Having them here in the country is free. That's not costing us any money, idiot.
Very concerning. Mr. Hegseth, I have noticed a disturbing pattern.
I've noticed a disturbing pattern here too. It's probably not the same pattern you've been noticing.
You previously have made a series of inflammatory statements about women in combat, LGBTQ service members, Muslim Americans, and Democrats. Since your nominations,
You're not doing anything to help the cause, honey.
however, you have walked those back on TV and interviews, and most recently in your opening statements. You are no longer on Fox and Friends, Mr. Hegseth. If confirmed, your words, actions, and decisions will have real impacts on national security and our service members' lives. There are close to 3 million personnel in the Department of Defense, $900 billion budget. I hardly think you are prepared to do the job.
You seem to be the expert on being ill-prepared to do a job. You're sitting here struggling to read whatever your staffers wrote and basically is trying to testify when you're supposed to be asking questions. So when it comes to not being prepared to do a job, you seem to be the queen of the ball.
Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Thank you. That wasn't a question, Mr. Hegseth.
I want to return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
Who we got here? Who's asking questions?
I believe so. And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct? Senator, I
think this is Tim Kaine asking these questions now. Tim Kaine, in case you don't remember who he is a Democrat from Virginia who used to be running mate of Hillary Clinton. This guy was almost vice president. No, he's the answer to a trivia question because nobody remembers who Hillary's running mate was. It was this clown. Well, not Pete Hegseth, obviously, but the clown asking the questions now.
Fully charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared. So you think you are completely cleared because you committed no crime? That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered.
Look at his, what the hell is happening? What is this? Apparently his hairstylist comes from capital city of Pan Am. Yeah, I don't know what's happening here with this guy. I don't know. He's definitely District 1. This guy's totally District 1. Oh my God, what the hell is this? What the hell is this?
A child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before?
You're sitting here making these accusations when you were trying to become vice president to Hillary Clinton and her husband, Bill. You stupid, ignorant, hypocritical clown. You ridiculous buffoon. What a jackass. Unbelievable. You were seriously trying to become running mate with freaking Bill's wife. And you're sitting here telling me, and you're palling it up. There's plenty of pictures of him and Bill Clinton. You're palling up with him, and you have the audacity to come in here with your stupid, ridiculous hair fluffing all around and sitting here trying to actually make a genuine, credible accusation against him for infidelity? Really? Really? That's your yardstick? In case you're wondering what the Democrats think is an appropriate, I'm going to pause with this ridiculous, I'm going to pause in this line of questioning here. We'll come back to it. Don't worry. We're coming back to this. I want to pause and share with you. You want to know who Democrats confirm from Biden? You want to see one of the idiots that they confirm as to what they consider qualified? No, if you had infidelity, you're not someone who can serve. This is a guy here who was supposed to Biden's picked to be the lead of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. The Federal Aviation Administration. You know, airplanes? Yeah, Federal Aviation Administration. This is the guy that Democrats like Tim Kaine confirmed. Okay? Check this guy out. This sitting here saying he's that Pete Hegseth isn't qualified. Listen to this guy who Biden brought in and led the Federal Aviation under Biden.
Mr. Washington, can you quickly tell me what airspace requires an ADS-B transponder?
Not sure I can answer that question right now.
That's okay. We'll just keep going. So that's a pretty important part. So what are the 6 types of special use airspace that protect this national security that appear on FAA charts?
Sorry, Senator, I cannot answer that question.
Okay. So what are the operational limitations of a pilot flying under basic med?
Senator, I'm not a pilot, so.
But obviously you'd oversee the Federal Aviation Administration. So any idea what those restrictions are under basic med, quickly?
Well, some of the restrictions I think would be high blood pressure. Some of them would be.
It's more like how many passengers per airplane, how many pounds in different categories, and what altitude you can fly under. So, and then amount of knots. It's under 250 knots. So it's not having anything to do with blood pressure. So can you tell me what causes an aircraft to spin or to stall?
Again, Senator, I'm not a pilot.
Okay, let's keep going. What are the 3 aircraft certifications the FAA requires as part of the manufacturing process? Quickly, please. 3 aircraft certifications.
Again, what I would say to that is that one of my first priorities would be to fully implement that Certification Act and report.
You know the 3 types, Mr. Washington? The 3 types? Okay. Yeah, that's type certificate, production certificate, and airworthiness certificate. Okay. All right. Let's just keep going, see if we can get lucky here. So can you tell me what the...
we get lucky. Let's see if we can get lucky here. Oh my God. Yeah. So this is the guy who they're confirming. This is what they're saying. It's qualified, totally qualified.
During the daytime. Mr. Washington.
I don't want to guess on that, Senator.
Are you familiar with the difference between Part 107 and Part 44809 when it comes to unmanned aerial standards? Unmanned like drones. Are you familiar with the difference?
Yes.
Okay. You know the difference between those 2, Part 44809 and Part 107? Do you know the difference there?
No, I cannot.
That's okay.
So there you go. This is that guy gets confirmed by Democrats. Pete Hegseth, because he slept with a woman who wasn't his wife, which I'm not condoning. I'm simply saying nothing at all to do with the job. Somehow he's not qualified according to the Joker over here. No, not at all qualified. Not at all qualified. How the hell can we let this guy in?
You tell us you are completely cleared. Senator, how is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated.
And you jackass who are trying to drag my 7-year-old daughter into this hearing. You stupid, hypocritical jackass. The comb over ain't working. The comb over ain't working. It's funny to watch all this Mr. Mark laughable. Why must be embarrassed by Hirono? No, they keep reelecting her. Hawaii is a weird place. Bigot Tim Kaine coming out hard against polyamory. You bigot. He's one of my 2 C-word senators. Is he? Oh, you're from Virginia. Oh, there you go. Senator Killer Clown from outer space needs to ask Mr. Hillary Clinton, could Hegseth take any legal action against all Dems who keep making false claims against him during the hearing? They were disgusting. Thanks. Probably not. No, there's all sorts of defamatory, there's all sorts of insulations that Congress have when they're in session. So almost certainly not. Good question. But as a legal matter, the answer is no.
On the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges. Well, no, fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017. You said it was consensual. Isn't that correct?
Anything
You've admitted that it was consensual and you were still married and you just had a child by another woman.
Again,
How do you explain your
completely
judgment?
false charges against me.
You
Fully investigated, and I was
you-
completely clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
It was a false claim then and a false claim now.
If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
That was a false claim.
So
Just
you
talking
can't-
about a hypothetical.
So you can't tell me whether someone who has committed a sexual assault is disqualified from being Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I know in my instance, and I'm talking about my instance only, it was a false claim.
But you acknowledge
And it
you
was
cheat, but
fully
you acknowledge
investigated.
that you
By the way, in this instance, he should do what every what every Supreme Court justice nominee does, which is saying, "I'm not answering hypotheticals. I'm going to have to deal with situations as they arise, and I'm going to defer to whatever stupid precedent that they refer to as far as not answering hypothetical questions." So, no, I'm not going to answer your stupid question. It's ridiculous. I mean, why would you even ask that question? What about an arsonist? Would an arsonist, is someone committed arson, would you say that they should be, I mean, it's such a stupid question. Look at those crazy eyes. Look at those insane eyes. My God. Those are some insane eyes. It's the eyebrows. Everything about this guy looks creepy as all get out. Creepy AF.
cheated on your wife and that you cheated on the woman by whom you had just fathered a child. You have admitted that.
I will allow your words to speak for themselves.
You're not retracting that today. That's good. I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
That is one. We didn't get to that yet, eclectic death. That's going to come up soon. So, but yeah, he is going to face questions about that.
Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, not a perfect person, not claiming to
But
be.
no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense in all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct?
I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed.
What a stupid question. Did you ask Bill Clinton that question? How he made an oath to Hillary Clinton, and he also made an oath to uphold the Constitution? That's such a stupid question. He thinks this is like they're so desperately trying to get it. Gotcha, 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 bitch, gotcha, bitch. That's not me saying, bitch. That's Chappelle.
By my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
In finalizing divorces from your first and second wives, were there non-disclosure agreements in connection with those divorces?
Objection, relevance. What the hell is that even relevant here? This is so stupid. This is so stupid.
Senator, not that I'm aware of.
If there were, would you agree to release
what the hell? Why?
Those first and second wives from any confidentiality agreement?
Senator.
No, absolutely not. Go to hell. Go to hell.
It's not something I'm aware of.
But if there were, you would agree to release them from a confidentiality agreement?
Senator.
Why? Why would he? That's ridiculous. That's the stupidest thing in the world. So, like, to see what his ex-wives, what kind of tea his ex-wives may spill about him, go to hell, you stupid clown.
That's not my responsibility.
Did you ever engage in any acts of physical violence against any of your wives?
Senator, absolutely not.
But you would agree with me that if someone had committed physical violence against a spouse, that would be disqualifying to serve as secretary.
Would you agree with me that if someone has a ridiculous quaff, that they're disqualified from being senator?
Of Defense, correct?
Senator, absolutely not have I ever done that.
You would agree that that would be a disqualifying effect.
This guy's a Looney Tunes. My God. Wow. This is the first time I'm watching this. I only made it like halfway through. Wow, he's Looney Tunes.
Would you not?
Senator, you're talking about a hypothetical.
I don't think it's a hypothetical.
Really?
Violence against spouses occurs every day.
You're talking about him. Whether a hypothetical violent person against the spouse was up for nomination.
And if you as a leader are not capable of saying that physical violence against a spouse should be a disqualifying fact for being secretary of the most powerful nation in the world, you're demonstrating an astonishing lack of judgment.
No, you're displaying an astonishing lack of judgment that you think that this is a relevant question. Well, why would you not ask about arson? Where's the arson questions? This is so stupid. Unbelievable.
The incident in Monterey led to a criminal charge, a criminal investigation, a private settlement, and a cash payment to the woman who filed the complaint. And there was also a non-disclosure agreement, correct?
It was a confidential settlement agreement off of a nuisance lawsuit.
Right. During an interview, you claimed that you settled the matter because you were worried that if it became public, it might hurt your career. Do you maintain that you were blackmailed?
Senator, I maintain that false claims were made against me. And ultimately,
your attorney
those
used
false
the
claims,
phrase,
I had the opportunity to attest my innocence in those false claims.
But you didn't reveal any of this to President Trump or the transition team as they were considering you to be nominated for Secretary of Defense. You didn't reveal the action. You didn't reveal the criminal complaint. You didn't reveal the criminal investigation.
He's from Virginia, so you can blame a million or two Virginians for this one.
You didn't reveal the settlement. You didn't reveal the cash payment. Why didn't you inform the commander-in-chief of the transition team of this very relevant event?
Senator, I've appreciated every part of the process with the transition team. They have been open and honest with me. We've had great conversations between the two of us. And I appreciate the opportunity that President-elect Trump has given me.
You chose not to reveal this, right? Because you knew it would hurt your chances. So you chose not to reveal this really important thing to the commander-in-chief.
No, it's not really important. It's not really important. He also didn't talk about which movies he watched when he was 19. Like, why is that relevant? If it's a bogus claim, then why would it be relevant? Because you're going to be asking questions about it. So, you don't matter. You're a no vote no matter who sits in this chair.
Chief of the transition team because you were worried about your chances rather than trying to be candid with the future president of the United States. Are there any other important facts that you chose not to reveal to the president-elect and his team as they were considering you to be Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I sit here before you an open book as everyone who's watched this process.
With multiple non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements.
Patience of Job, he's sitting there. Patience of Job, just fielding these questions with such ridiculous questions. And he's handling it the way he's supposed to. He should not be saying the sort of things I'm saying. That would not be appropriate. He's handling it professionally. And treating these people as if they're not out of their minds.
Tying the hands of many people who would like to comment to us. Much has been made of your workplace behavior as a leader of nonprofit veterans organizations and as a Fox News contributor. Were you fired from either of the leadership positions with the nonprofits?
I was the leader. I was the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America and the executive director of Vets for Freedom.
Were you fired from either
and I
of
was
them?
never fired from a veterans organization.
Do you have non-disclosure agreements with either of those organizations?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator.
Many of your work colleagues have said that you show up for work under the influence of alcohol or drunk. I know you've denied that, but you would agree with me, right, that if that was the case, that would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense.
Senator, those are all anonymous false claims, and the totality.
They're not anonymous.
The letters on the record here.
They're not anonymous.
On the record.
We've seen records with names
Vets
attached
for Freedom, Concerned Vets for America, and Fox News. One of your colleagues working hard every day on behalf.
One of your colleagues said that you got drunk at an event at a bar and chanted, "Kill all Muslims." Another colleague, not anonymous, we have this, said that you took coworkers to a strip club. You were drunk. You tried to dance with strippers. You had to be held off the stage. And one of your employees in that event filed a sexual harassment charge as a result of it. Now, I know you denied these things, but isn't that the kind of behavior that, if true, would be disqualifying for somebody to be?
No. It's can he get the job done? Will he get it done?
Secretary of Defense?
Senator, anonymous false charges.
They're not anonymous. And I'll just conclude and say this to the chairman. You claim that this was all anonymous. We have seen records with names attached to all of these, including the name of your own mother. So don't make this into some anonymous press thing. We have seen multiple names of colleagues consistently throughout your career that have talked about your abusive actions.
This is a pretty good response too. You determine what's disqualifying, not me. The Senate determines what's qualifying or disqualifying, not me.
I think he's over his time. He's way over his time.
I now yield.
So if you're confirmed as Secretary of Defense, you will oversee our.
Okay, it's going to be very hard for me to avoid the B word on this one. This is Senator Liz Warren, a.k.a. Pocahontas. If you're unfamiliar, she's known as Pocahontas, Liz Warren. Liz Warren, Massachusetts. She has skated through life trying to ride a made-up bio that she is Indian or Native American, and took a DNA test which showed that she was less than 1/1000th Native American. And yet she filled out on all that, hence why she got the nickname from Donald Trump as Pocahontas. And of course, Pocahontas. You know, and you can do the whole for like Liz Warren. Yeah. So I'm sure at this moment, Pete knows what's coming. He's very professionally withholding from doing the war whoop. And this exchange is kind of amusing.
Military, including about 250,000 women who currently serve on active duty in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Space Forces, and the Marines. And I have serious concerns that
back in 2020, when she was a candidate, a Democratic primary candidate for president, she tried looking very relatable, which if you're a mannequin or a walking corpse, she's probably very relatable to you. But for the rest of Americans who are not part of that particular intersectionality, she's a lot less relatable. So she's showing herself at home cracking open a cold one, and she drank a beer like the weirdest way it was the weirdest. She's like, oh, everything about it was weird. She looked so awkward. I gotta find that. Maybe one of you will send me. I don't have time to look for it. Send me Senator Liz Warren drinking a beer. I'll check my DMs if one of you can send me her cracking a beer, trying to just seem like a good old girl. Oh my God.
your behavior toward women disqualifies you from serving in this role.
There's a lot of
now, I've been trying to get answers from you for quite some time.
Her head jerks around like she's got Tourette's a lot. She doesn't cuss like someone's got Tourette's. She doesn't. But she does the head jerking like she has some sort of spasm or some sort of tick or something like that. Her head jerks a lot, I noticed.
On this, you haven't wanted to meet or to answer any of my questions. So we'll just have to do it here and dive in. I want to pick up on some of the questions asked by Senator Shaheen and Gillibrand.
She has been the same since Glee ended. She used to she played a gym teacher. She was a lot more popular than she is right now. But sorry.
And Hirono. And I just want to make sure we have a list of some of the facts that I think are undisputed. I'm not going to talk about anonymous sources. I'm just going to quote you directly. We've got the video. We've got it in print.
Do you?
So going back to January 2013, you told a Fox News interviewer that women in the military simply couldn't measure up to men in the military.
11. So we're going back 12 years. January 2013. So 12 years ago. This is okay. Yeah, what do you got? What do you got for us, honey?
Harry, saying that allowing women to serve in combat roles would force the military to lower the bar. You picked up on that same theme in 2015, making remarks on Fox News, referring.
So, and again, even then in 2013, he was talking about how he has a problem with lowering the bar. Right? I mean, that's what he's saying. There's actually nothing wrong with what he said 12 years ago, but you're just going to throw it out there anyway.
To women in combat as, quote, it would erode standards. June 2024, you said on Ben Shapiro's podcast, quote, women shouldn't be in combat at all. And then, of course, we've talked about it in 2024. You published a book, and you say on page 26 of your book, we need moms.
Hey, just want to say hello to all of potentially criminal Sean's viewers who popped on into the chat here. We are watching today's Armed Services Committee Senate hearing where they're trying to decide whether or not they're going to confirm Pete Hegseth upon his nomination being put forward for Secretary of Defense by incoming President Donald Trump. So this is Senator Liz Warren.
But not in the military, especially in combat units. Page 48 of your book, you claim that women should not be in combat roles, because men are distracted by women. And then 10 weeks ago, you appeared on the Sean Ryan show and said, I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. Now, I presume you recall making all these statements?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the article you're pointing to in 2013, but it underscores my argument completely, because in that 2013 argument, I was talking about standards.
So
standards are what it's always been about,
Let's not
Senator.
have this same fight again.
Always been about Senate
I've quoted
standards.
you directly. We've got the video. We're happy to show it. But I want to be clear here. For 12 years, you were quite open about your views, and your views were consistently the same. Women are inferior soldiers, sailors, Marines.
That's not what he said. His views were that it would lower the standard. That's what your own quote said that. Why you? She's always gaslighting. She's always gaslighting this woman.
Airmen and guardians. And in case anyone missed the point, and these are your words from 10 weeks ago, women absolutely straight up should not be permitted to serve in combat. And I notice on each of these quotes, those are said without qualification. It's not by how much you can lift or how fast you can run. They don't belong in combat, period, or your words, straight up. And then on November 9th, 2024, just 32 days after your last public comment saying that women absolutely should not be in combat, you declared that, quote, some of our greatest warriors are women, and you support having them serve in combat. Now, that is a very, very big about face in a very, very short period of time.
No, it's not.
So help me understand, Mr. Hegseth.
He already told you the
What
answer.
extraordinary event happened in that 32-day period that made you change the core values you had expressed for the preceding 12 years?
Senator, again, I very much appreciate you bringing up my comments from 2013, because for me, this issue has always been about standards. And unfortunately, because of some of the people that have been in political power for the last 4 years, priorities other than standards, lethality, and meritocracy have driven decision making.
I'm quoting you from the podcast. Women shouldn't be in combat.
See, she wanted to get the earliest quote possible. She's so stupid. When it's incompetent, not as stupid as Mazie Hirono, don't get me wrong. That's just like next level. Like, oh my God, how does she cross the street without and navigate traffic if she's got, and especially if there's gum in her mouth, she's a dead woman. She's a dead woman. Not, because, she's probably hard for cars. I imagine cars swerving all over the road to just because she just sort of be like ambling around. That's Mazie Hirono level incompetence. She's not quite that level incompetence, but she's so desperate to show that this is something that goes back decades to 2013, 12 years, that she went to 2013, and the 2013 quote is what actually exonerates him, because it basically says this has been his position for the last 12 years, is that having women in the military lowers our standards, which has been his message this entire hearing. And she stupidly brought that quote up where, now that puts everything he says thereafter in context. Ignoramus.
Combat at all. Where is the reference to standards? that they should be there if they can carry, if they can run.
Yeah, I don't say that every time. I don't say that every single freaking time. Same way when people refer to you as Senator Warren, they might not refer to you as Senator Elizabeth Warren every single time. Idiots.
See that at all, Mr. Hegseth. What I see is that there's a 32-day period in which you suddenly have another description about your views of women in the military. And I just want to know what changed in the 32 days that the song you sang is not the song you come in here today to sing.
Senator, the concerns I have and the concerns that many have had, especially in ground combat units, is that in pursuit of certain percentages or quotas, standards have been changed. And that makes the combat more difficult
Let me make a
for everybody
suggestion
involved.
about what happened in that 32 days.
Oh, you
got a nomination from President Trump. Now, I've heard of deathbed conversions, but this is the first time I've heard of a nomination conversion.
Is it really? You've never seen someone change their position after being nominated? Really? This is the first time? Assuming what you were saying was true, which it's not in this particular case, at least from what you yourself testified about, from the cross-examination chair that you're standing there giving your testimony. But what you yourself put forward there shows that he hasn't converted at all. And I'm sure you've seen many times that people who were confirmed all of a sudden started changing their positions a little bit to something that was a little bit more tolerable. Stupid, lying, gaslighting. Yeah, there's no other word. Shrill hag, screeching hag.
And I hope you understand that many women serving in the military right now might think that if you can convert so rapidly your long-held and aggressively pursued views in
Disqualifying Senator at falsely claiming Native heritage. Unfortunately, no. Senator, will you release the Epstein files? Is it disqualifying to be a senator falsely claiming Native? That's not Pocahontas. Watch the frosting spray on her face at the end of this exchange. Oh, we will. We'll see it. Pocahontas' other name is Chicken Head. Pocahontas. That probably is better.
just 32 days, that 32 days after you get confirmed, maybe you'll just reverse those views and go back to the old guy who said straight up, women do not belong in combat.
Yeah, that's likely going to happen.
Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk to you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because
You can
it's
think
not
about it
one
right
that-
now.
It's not one, my motivation for this job.
I understand
has never
that. I
been
just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying.
There you go. Not a general. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
Sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander.
I would want to see what the policy of the
Oh,
president
I'll
is.
bet you
Thank-
would.
Mr. Hegseth, this hearing is about whether you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And
This is Senator Tammy Duckworth. If you're unfamiliar with her, she is someone who bravely served in the armed forces. I believe she was in the armed forces. She was certainly in the military and lost two legs. Lost two legs in the process. And she is senator from Illinois. So that's Tammy Duckworth we're about to hear from. This exchange is going to get heated. It's going to get heated. I'm not a general either, Grievous. Frosted face.
And one of the qualifications to answer my colleague's question is to actually win the votes of every member of this committee. And
No, not every member of this committee. Your vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Not at all. We know you're a no. Whoever would be sitting there is a no. So yeah, that's not what the it's not every member of this committee. You wish it was every member of this committee, but it ain't. You're kind of irrelevant. I have to be polite to you so people don't think that I'm a jerk. But I don't really care about your vote. I know how it's going to go.
be confirmed by the United States Senate. And you need to convince us that you're worthy of that vote because the people.
No, not you. Not you. See, you're someone who's unconvincible. No matter who, you could, if he was General Washington, you would find a problem with him. Point in fact, they keep toppling Washington's statues. So if he was General Washington and came in here now, you'd start screaming that he was a slave owner 300 years ago. So 250 years ago. So yeah, it's not your vote he's worrying about, honey.
People of the state of Illinois voted for me to be their senator so that I could cast that vote when it comes.
No, you see, but no one cares because you're part of 47. You're in the minority. So there you go.
To picking who is going to be the next Secretary of Defense. This hearing now seems to be a hearing about whether or not women are qualified to serve in combat and not about whether or not you are qualified to be Secretary of Defense. And let me just say that the American people need a SecDef who's ready to lead on day one. You are not that person. Our adversaries watch closely during times of transition, and any sense that the Department of Defense that keeps us safe is being steered by someone who's wholly unprepared for the job puts America at risk. And I am not willing to do that. With that in mind, Mr. Hegseth, I want you to try to explain to the American people, this committee, who have to vote for you, and to our troops who are deployed around the world, why you are qualified to lead the Department of Defense. We already know that you've only led the largest, a 200-person organization. We already know that you so badly mangled a budget that after you left, they had to bring in a forensic accountant to figure out what went wrong.
Oh, that doesn't mean that he badly mangled anything. That doesn't mean anything. That's absurd.
And that the largest budget you ever managed was about $18 billion. You know, that is about 51,560 times lower than the Department of Defense budget of $800.
$18 billion is a lot of money. That's a lot of friggin' money. That's actually probably that's probably more than most nominees for Secretary of Defense. That's your big own. Is that the biggest budget he ever had to manage? What you were never Secretary of Defense before. What makes you think you're qualified for this job? Oh my God, that is wrong. That is so wrong. Oh my God. Oh, this is wrong. There's a line you don't cross. Okay, certain lines you don't walk across. It's like there's the line. You don't walk across the line. Trust me, Tammy would never walk across this line. You don't walk across that line. You don't do it. You don't do it.
$25 billion. $16 million is 51,568 times smaller than the defense budget. Please describe to me, Mr. Hegseth, you talk about DOD passing an audit. Please describe to me a time or an organization when you led underwent an audit, because you say you're going to hire smarter people than you to run this audit. I'm not asking you to be an accountant. I want you to be able to tell me what kind of guidance will be given to those employees, what will happen whether or not you pass that audit. Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or no? Did you need?
What are you asking if he's an accountant? Is that what you're asking? Are you an accountant? I want you, look, I give you 3 minutes. I'm going to spend the rest of my 3 minutes here and give you a ledger. I'm going to tell you, balance these books. What are you asking him? This is the stupidest question. What does that even mean? Oh my God.
An audit.
And the way my
yes or no,
leadership
did
has
you lead
been
an audit?
stated
Yes or
has
no?
been completely
What are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question. Yes or no, did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
I don't understand what the question means. What does the question mean? Was he sitting there with the numbers? Did you get out your little calculator? Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Senator, every
Yes or
part
no?
of my leadership
Yes
of these
or no?
organizations.
It's so weird how he doesn't like working with women. Why don't you like working with women? Why? Why would you not like it? Let me tell you something. Wow, women in the workplace are phenomenal. You're not really making a great case for it. You're really not. You're really not making a great case for it. You're asking stupid questions and just being completely asinine. Now, to be fair, that seems to be the role of Democrats throughout here, because Tim Kaine is certainly a dude, I think. And he seemed pretty asinine too. So it could be that it just comes with the it's kind of a job prerequisite. So maybe it's not a gender thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just you're sitting on that side of the aisle.
Yes or no, did you lead an audit? I will take that as a no. What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit.
So why would you ask the question? Why would you say, what were the findings? As a fellow amputee, I approve that message. Here's a woman that won't get on her knees for not nice. Bad chat. Bad chat. Bad chat. Bad chat. And you can't fly a helicopter, Stumpy. Oh my God. Bad chat. Bad chat. Very disappointing, all of you. And the whole bunch of yous. Seriously. Seriously. God. DM me a clip of the wise senator. Come on. Come on. She's got enough issues. You don't kick a woman when she's down.
What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit. Nobody expects you to be an accountant, Mr. Hegseth. We expect is for you to understand the complexity of this Pentagon budget process that is absolutely necessary.
This is not right. This is so wrong. It's not cool. Not cool. Gosh. It's like one person as soon that's the thing. It really is your fault, Felzu, okay? Because as soon as one person dips his toe in the pool, everyone's got to go dive it on in there. Not cool. Not cool.
To outfit our war fighters. Look, the Secretary of Defense is required to make quick decisions every single day with high-level information that's being provided for them. A Secretary of Defense has to have breadth and depth of knowledge. Right now, I am concerned that you have neither. Mr. Hegseth, what is the highest level of international negotiations that you have engaged in, that you have led in? Because the Secretary of Defense does lead international security negotiations. there are three main ones that the Secretary of Defense leads and signs. Can you name at least one of them?
Could you repeat the question, Senator?
Sure. What is the highest level of international security agreement that you have led? And can you name some that the Secretary of Defense would lead? There's three main ones. Do you know?
I have not been involved in international security arrangements because I have not been in government other than serving in the military. So my job has been to.
So no, the answer is.
So this is what your yardstick is? Really? Really? This is what your yardstick is? I don't know. Like I said, when a Democrat nominee was up there, all of a sudden the yardstick was a lot shorter. It was a lot shorter yardstick. Where the person like didn't know, and it was trying to become the secretary of the Federal Aviation Association and doesn't know what makes a plane stall, doesn't understand what flying charts look like, has no clue about anything, and you're sitting here saying that he hasn't chaired any international treaties. That's your big own, Tammy? That's it? That's your big own, Tammy? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. She was Black Hawk down in Iraq. Wow, lessons not learned. Well, apparently, she's crashing and burning right here with these questions. Oh, my God.
Can you name one of the three main ones that the Secretary of Defense
defense
signs?
arrangements. I mean, NATO might be one that you're referring to.
Status of Forces Agreement would be one of them.
Status of Forces Agreement. I've been a part of teaching about Status of Forces Agreements.
But you don't remember to mention it?
No, I didn't know that's what you're qualifying. You're using a term that he's not familiar with. Big deal. Who cares? Who cares? How is that relevant? Idiot. Sitting here screaming. You're just screaming at him like this shrieking, shrill harpy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. Seriously.
You're not qualified.
She's like, it's like she doesn't care about the answer. She just wants to roll all over him, like back and forth. It's just wrong. It's just wrong.
Hi, Mr. Hegseth. You're not qualified. You talk about repairing our defense industrial complex. You're not qualified to that. You could do acquisition and cross-servicing agreements, which essentially are security agreements. You can't even mention that. You've done none of those. You talked about the Indo-Pacific a little bit, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. Can you name the importance of at least one of the nations in the ASEAN, and what type of agreement we have with at least one of those nations? And how many nations are in ASEAN, by the way?
So now this is another type of I want to try and gotcha on my particular area that I want to ask you about international geopolitics. How is this relevant to whether or not he's fit to this determines whether or not he's fit to serve as far as overseeing the defense? This is not something he would learn on. He can learn in 20 minutes the particular area that he needs to interact with. This is the gotcha type of questioning that people who stand on the left love to just throw out so that truth is people who stand on the right tend to do it too. But it's such an ugly part of Congress. Such an ugly part of Congress. Oh God. No. The Black for 6 life, like the president, they just didn't snip every kid's hair, and the VP's how he didn't cheat the babysitter. Yeah. Apparently, Tammy Duckworth is making him march to a whole different yardstick than anyone who the Democrats ever nominated.
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of nations in that, but I know we have allies in South Korea.
ASEAN is spelled ASEAN. I didn't know this when he was asked the question either. I looked it up when I saw a clip on this. ASEAN is 10 nations, stands for the Alliance of the Southeastern Asian Nations. ASEAN. And it doesn't have, and I actually asked Grok about this. Here it is. See? I did ask Grok about this earlier. I saw a clip of this. 10 members who work together to promote economic growth, regional stability, and cultural development. How is this important for the Secretary of Defense to know this? Why? This is a critical element? It's like a gotcha. Why don't you ask him about like spreadsheets in some sort of in a stockbroker's office, because it's just about as relevant. It's just about as relevant for his ability to get this job done. But she's like, aha, you don't know what ASEAN is. Stupid.
Agreement we have with at least one of those nations. And how many nations are in ASEAN, by the way?
I couldn't tell you the exact
No, you
amount of
couldn't,
nations in
because you've
that,
not
but I
even
know we have
bothered to
allies
do-
in South Korea and Japan and in AUKUS with Australia, and trying to work
Okay.
on submarines with them.
Mr.
and data
Hegseth,
transfers
none
with
of those
them.
countries
We
are
have
in
allies
ASEAN.
across.
He didn't claim they were in ASEAN. He said these are what he's worked with. So just because he hasn't worked with Myanmar, that means he's not qualified? That means he's not qualified? So dumb. Senator something wrong. Ringtone his leg spicy. Not cool, Chef Davis. Not cool. She got legs. She knows how to use them. She got legs.
None of those 3 countries that you've mentioned are in ASEAN. I suggest do a little homework before you prepare.
No, because that's not part of the Secretary of Defense job to understand. Well, why don't you ask him, like, ask him which teams won the Stanley Cup in the 1990s? It's like, give me all 10 teams who won the Stanley Cup in the 1990s. No, you can't, can you? You can't. You can't. I think you're going to need to do a little more homework before we're going to prove you to be secretary. It's like, can we focus on what it is he's supposed to be doing and not just start wandering up here and wandering? Because that's what she's doing. She's wandering around. That's what she's doing. What is the point here? What is the point of these questions? You can't. Next question. All right. Let's talk bowling tournaments. Name the all-time bowling championship master from 1987 to 2006. Wow, you really didn't do much homework here, did you? All right. Name 11 different species of turtle. Oh, God. Thank God. These Democrats, they're going to fail him unless he can walk on water.
For these types of negotiations. Listen, Mr. Hegseth, we ask our troops to go into harm's way all the time.
Just so that they can, and they have to know. They have to know whether the Philippines are part of ASEAN or not. And you don't. Yes. This is so comically bad questioning. Name any animal with more legs. She's the champ in the world chair bowling league. I'm sure she is. That's what she needs to know. There is no answering these questions because that would make him say anything other than he's on. Of course not. Of course not.
We ask them to go into harm's way. And this behind me is a copy of the Soldier's Creed, a copy that usually hangs over my desk here in the Senate. And you should be familiar with it. It's the same copy that hung over my desk at Walter Reed every single day that I woke up and fought my way back because I wanted to go back and serve next to my buddies who saved my life. This same copy, these words are repeated over and over and over again.
No, Hirono is the wish version of Duckworth. She's much stupider. I'm telling Hirono, okay. It's boggling how stupid Hirono is. Boggling. Much as bad as Duckworth is, as bad, trust me, much stupider. Much stupider. Oh my God.
And let me read out two things to you, two sentences.
Okay.
I will always place the mission first, and I am disciplined, physically and mentally tough, trained and proficient in my warrior task. Mr. Hegseth, our troops follow these words every single day.
And so did he. So did he. Every single day. You're not putting the mission first because you're asking him stupid questions like name the nations of ASEAN. Here's an unladen swallow. Well, let's see. They can flap their wings at 47 beats per minute. And so if you tie two coconuts together and attached it to its legs and then sent them out. She's not gonna walk on water. God.
And they man up and they pack their rucksacks and they go to war. And they deserve a leader who can lead them, not a leader who wants to lower the standards for himself or raising the standards for other people. And by the way, our troops already meet the standards.
Where did he lower the standards for himself? What part of the standards did he lower for himself? He's a highly decorated officer. What are you talking about?
We asked troops to man that ship, fight that fire, fly that helicopter until their very last breath.
Well, I want to be clear here. I definitely appreciate her service. I appreciate her service. That doesn't mean that she's not an idiot, though. I mean, she's sure she won a Purple Heart and well deserved. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean there's any motion upstairs. It doesn't mean it's almost like, she's like a victim of mustard gas with like the cloudiness in her brain. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what's happening. Nothing she's saying is making much sense.
And they do that every single day. They cannot be led by someone who's not competent to do the job. How can we ask these warriors to train and perform the absolute highest standards when you are asking us to lower the standards to make you the Secretary of Defense?
To lower the standards by making him the Secretary of Defense. I got a news flash for you. Ever since Trump announced that he's making Pete Hegseth the Secretary of Defense, registrations into the armed forces have gone through the roof. Gone through the roof. Low, how can we ask anyone? Apparently, we don't need to ask. That people come running. People come running. People see through your crap, Tammy. People see through it. I think you should put the leg and legally restart. I think that the S in there was inserted by YouTube.
Simply because you are buddies with our president-elect. And by the way, he has filed for bankruptcy 6 times. I'm not quite.
Oh, here we go. So you're going to say he's not qualified. Great news. She is promising future career at IHOP in case this Congress thing doesn't work out. That's from Hunter Brooks. I'm making sure I didn't miss anything over here in the ghetto.
Quite sure he's the kind of CEO you want to refer to as a successful businessman.
He's very successful. He became president. What did you do? He made himself a billionaire and became president, despite despite millions of people doing everything they could to destroy his life. He's incredibly successful. Doofus. Let's be honest. The collective IQ of Congress, right? That's probably starting to get into the 80s.
Let me make it clear. You can't seem to grasp that there is no U.S. military as we know it without the incredible women that we serve.
That's not what he said. That you're being clear, but that's not what he said. He's being so polite and so respectful to this utter idiocy that just sitting through this, I'm like, just confirm the guy already.
Women who've earned their place in their units. You have not earned your place as Secretary of Defense. You say you care about keeping our armed forces strong and that you like that our armed forces is a meritocracy. Then let's not lower the standards for you. You, sir, are a no-go at this station.
You're a no-go.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to my next question.
Oh, God. I hate this one. Jackie
America's role.
I didn't see this, but this is Jackie Rosen. She's a Democrat from Nevada. Wait, I know everyone in Nevada gets mad at me when I say the state name. It's not Nevada, that I know. Nevada. Nevada, is that right? Nevada. That's what it is. Nevada. I think that's what it is. It's as if there's two T's there. Nevada. That's what I'm going with. Nevada. I hope I got that right. Literally haven't laughed this much in forever. You're welcome. You're welcome. She's not legally. Stop it! Trump successfully owns a plane that has. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh, that's so wrong. The reason they're making these jokes is because Tammy Duckworth crashed her helicopter. That's how she lost her legs. That's not funny. That's not funny. That's not funny. It's like Tammy Duckworth. It's like writing your lines for you guys. The lines are all crashing all over. This is why he didn't go meet with the. This is one of a few reasons. One of a few reasons he had to build his tolerance. He has to save his tolerance.
In the world. Our alliances, the threats America is facing, they're serious, they're wide-ranging, from China to Russia to Iranian-backed terrorism. So do you agree with the national defense strategy that the U.S. cannot compete with China, Russia, and their partners alone, and certainly cannot win a war that way? And this is a quote from the national defense strategy. Is your interpretation that American first foreign policy is America alone? Does that include abandoning our allies and partners such as NATO, Taiwan, Israel, and others? And if we can't win alone and we don't strengthen our strategic partnerships, I would say that position, your position, places on a strategic path to lose to our adversaries. So maybe you're okay with choosing that path for America. I want to know how you square that position with the positions you articulated in your book, where you wrote that NATO is at relic, at best a distraction, and should be scrapped.
It is a relic. It is a distraction. It should be scrapped. Earned a Purple Heart. Oh, no. Great. Thanks. Thank you.
And remade.
Thank you for clarifying.
Are you okay with sending us down a path where we can't win?
Senator,
Thank you. That was a big scoop you got there. You got me, Tammy. Tammy said.
World has had, our friends in the world have had no better ally. Our allies and partners have had no better friend than President Donald Trump, who's reinvigorated a NATO alliance, who stood behind Israel in every way, in ways this administration has not. He has ensured that the NATO alliance has become far more robust. He worked with allies in the Pacific as well.
Is Donald Trump going to stand behind Ukraine?
I hope not. Let's hope not. That's why elections have consequences. Let's hope he don't.
You going to stand behind Ukraine?
I'm going to do whatever the president tells me to do, because that's kind of what I'm supposed to do as Secretary of Defense. That's why he's bringing me in.
You say he's the strongest president. President-elect Trump said he will end the war in Ukraine before he takes office. Okay, so less than a week before he's inaugurated, to the best of your knowledge. Do you have knowledge of a plan that he's going to use to rapidly end the war with Ukraine? Do you believe it's feasible, that it does not make unacceptable concessions to Vladimir Putin, who is a brutal dictator? And are you going to give President-elect Trump military advice that you have given others to achieve the objective of us winning the war in Ukraine? How do you think a rapid end to the war that Vladimir...
What do you think winning the war in Ukraine looks like? Does that mean deposing Putin? Does it mean taking Moscow? What does a win in Ukraine look like? There's a lot of different answers to that question. It's pretty stupid.
Putin started will affect the United States standing across the world.
Senator, I will always give clear guidance, my clear guidance, best guidance to the President of the United States on matters like that.
Do you think that if we concede to Vladimir Putin, that will hurt our credibility with our allies and partners? And do you not believe that our adversaries are watching?
Perhaps you can take that for the record, Mr. Hegseth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hegseth, good to see you here today. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Senator.
And your willingness to serve. I also want to thank you for your clarity.
This is Eric Schmidt, he's a Republican from Missouri. I haven't heard this yet. I'm surprised they skipped Mark Wayne Mullen, who actually, in this clip, he actually had some great lines and was very supportive of Pistol Pete. It's not in this CBS News thing. I wonder why. CBS News put this collage together for me at my request. But let me see. Someone said they sent me stuff on whatchamacallit. Someone said they share with me a post. Share with me a post about Hirono. Let me pull this up real quick. I think that was Joe who did this. Give me like 1 second. Not audio Joe, different Joe McCormick. I don't know, somebody. No, that's something like that. All right. I don't need to dox him. Wait a second here. This is supposedly from Hirono's testimony.
Are you attracted to Mr. Hegseth, are you attracted to obese Hawaiian women with a below normal IQ?
No, Senator.
Mr. Hegseth, are you aware that I used the potty all by myself today?
No, Senator.
Mr. Hegseth, you seem to be pretty fertile. If confirmed, would you commit to putting a baby in me?
No, Senator.
Mr. Hegseth, are you saying under oath that you refuse to impregnate a portly Hawaiian retarded woman, even if she can use the potty all by herself? Mr. Hegseth.
Hey. I think these things are funnier when they don't get to the whole potty part. The rest of it I thought was pretty funny though. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That was something we needed. Because we needed some comic relief here. This was getting a little dry. This whole thing was getting a little dry. Yeah. So we needed a little comedic interjectory there. I didn't get a chance to vet it before I shared it with you. Yeah. But all right. Let's jump back in. Let's jump back in with Tammy and the rest of the Senate into this confirmation hearing. And now we got Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri.
Articulating the vision you have for the Department of Defense in restoring an ethos, a warrior ethos, which is in stark contrast to the ethos we've seen the last 4 years, which is of weakness and wokeness. And I want to drill down on a few things specifically and exactly how we've gotten to where we've gotten with recruiting and morale. DEI. There's been a little bit of discussion about this, but for those watching at home, DEI is not about giving everybody opportunity. It is rooted in cultural Marxism. The idea that you pit the room, any room, with oppressor versus oppressed. It's race essentialism. And it is poison. It has no business whatsoever in our military. I think the American people have spoken loudly and clearly about this. They're tired of this.
Yeah.
They're tired of woke ideology. And to my Democrat colleagues on the other side, if you haven't picked up on that, you missed the plot. Because that's what November 5th partially was about. And so let's talk specifically about some of these DEI programs that have been funded. In our academies, specifically the Air Force Academy, it was advised as disfavored language to refer to your mom and dad as mom and dad. Okay? Dear mom and dad, I'm writing home. Don't say that.
Dear parental.
That's insane. We're all just people. You can't say that either. And in an effort to police this, in a 1984 Orwellian novel, there was actually an eyes and ears program to rat on your fellow students who might say mom and dad. Or just say in a tough situation, you know what? We're all just people. Can't say that. This wasn't limited, by the way, to our academies. The Secretary of the Air Force, our current Secretary of the Air Force, in a memo from August of 2022, thought we had too many white officers, advocated for quotas. And if you crunch the numbers, that meant that 5,800 white officers who've worked really hard should be fired. In the United States of America, I don't know how we got here. And by the way, the Air Force isn't alone here. The Navy sort of touted a drag queen influencer. This stuff is insane. And people wonder why recruiting has dropped off. And let me just go through a few numbers, then I want to get your comments on how we fix this, because it's gone completely off the rails. In 2022, the Army missed their recruiting goal of 60,000 soldiers by over 15,000. In 2023, the Navy missed their recruiting goals by over 7,000. In 2022, the Air Force couldn't meet their standards, their numbers, even though they lowered their standards. They've lowered their standards to meet numbers they still can't get to.
Which is exactly what he's talking
Mr. Hegseth.
Exactly what Pete's talking about.
We got to fix this. I think what you've demonstrated today is that you have the talent and the ability and the desire to fix it. How are you going to fix it?
Well, Senator, first and foremost, up front, you have to tear out DEI and CRT initiatives, root and branch out of institutions.
100%.
Here, here.
And then you have to put in Army, Navy, and Air Force secretaries and others, civilian positions at the helm who are committed to the same priorities that the President of the United States is, and if confirmed, the Secretary of Defense will be. Send a clear message that this is not a time for equity. Equity is a very different word than equality. Equality is the bedrock of our military. Men and women, duty positions in uniform, black, white, doesn't matter. We treat you equally based on who you are in the image of God as an individual. And we all get the same bad haircuts. You're not an individual, you're part of a group. Equity prescribes some sort of an outcome based on differing attributes that we have that divide us. What skin color are you? What gender are you? And then infuse that into institutions which manifest in things like quotas, formal or informal, which does what to morale? Sends it in the tubes. And it makes people feel like they're being judged by something other than how good they are at their job, which is poisonous inside institutions.
So on top of this recruiting crisis, that wasn't enough for this administration. During the COVID hysteria and in their attempt to fire 100,000 people who worked for bigger companies because they didn't get the COVID shot, or to mask 5-year-olds, they decided also to make this a central plank in their policy at the Pentagon.
What the hell is that?
8,000 well-trained. So we got a recruiting crisis. 8,000 well-trained men and women were fired.
Okay.
Were fired.
I don't know what that picture is, but it looks really racist. I don't know what that picture is. That looks like a really, really. What is this picture? What is this pic? This cannot be. What is that? This looks like the most racist picture I've ever seen in my life. This looks worse than, I don't know what is happening here. How is that not a racist picture? That looks totally. What is it? Austin protected. Everyone, why are you saying Austin? Secretary of Defense Austin? Really? That's SecDef Austin?
Will you commit today, Mr. Hegseth, to recruit these folks back, to give them back pay and give them an apology from the United States government for how they were disrespected?
Senator, I will commit to this because the commander-in-chief has committed to this, that not only will they be reinstated, they will receive an apology, back pay, and rank that they lost because they were forced out due to an experimental vaccine.
Thank you. And I'm a limited time, but I just want to say, for all the talk of experience and not coming from the same cocktail parties that Permanent Washington.
Look, fortunately, Joni Ernst came around. That's the key. At the end of the day, all the talk is cheap. It's really what they do when it's time to vote. That's all that matters. Everything else that they're doing, saying, and all that other stuff, that's just politicking for votes. This is just grandstanding so that their supporters will say, huzzah, you did good at the end of the day. Maybe it gives us a little insight into who Pete Hegseth is, but yeah. It's Darth Austin inspecting the troops. What the hell is he? Why would he have a Darth? It's the stupidest thing in the world.
Is used to. You are a breath of fresh air. And again, if you weren't paying attention to what this election was all about, it was about the disruptors versus the establishment. And the American people have had enough of business as usual for the same people that we line up for these same jobs who give us the same results. We need somebody who's going to go in there and fight for innovation, fight for change. I think you're that person. And I appreciate your willingness to sit here and listen to some of these undignified attacks. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
Few nominees come into this room with all the necessary experience to do this job, to be Secretary of Defense. We get that.
This is Mark Kelly.
It's a reflection on just
Arizona.
how big of a job this is. What I want to understand is whether or not you bring any of the necessary experience that this job requires. And here's where I'm concerned. Senator Coleman, in introducing you, and this is a quote, he said, he has struggled and overcome great personal challenges, unquote. You walk in here saying that you've had personal and character issues in your past, including heavy drinking, which you wrote about.
Why would you do that?
And you said, and this is a quote from you, that you said, I sit before you as an open book. Yet you haven't actually said what personal challenges it is that you've overcome when you've been.
All right, instead of Mark Kelly, I just want to share with you.
There we go.
Aging delivered. I asked earlier for someone to come forward with Pocahontas trying to drink a beer. Here she is trying to just seem totally relatable.
I'm glad for everybody who's joining this video. It's great to hear from you. Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer.
Because that's what I do all the time. I drink a beer all the time. That's what I do. So you just wait right there. I couldn't have a beer ready here. I'm going to make a big deal to do about how I'm just going to now go get a beer, right? Because that's what I'm going to do. Because I want everyone to just be cognizant of the fact that I'm about to be drinking a beer like I always do. So since I always do that, that's why I'm going to go now. Like, I didn't think to have one here, but I want everyone to know that I always do that. So that's why now I'm going to go get me a beer and drink it in the way that I always drink beer. Always. Lots of times. Same haircut, but not if you're a female. Equality. Right. Well, there you go. That is equality. Please pull up the Mullen video. It's in your DMs. I got it. How did you know it was in my DMs? How did you know that, Feminital? I got it from some dude. That was weird. That was weird. That was interesting. Okay. Well, we'll get there. And I appreciate you being a member for 13 freaking months. But yeah. So hold on a second. She's gonna go get a beer.
Hey, Robert, my husband Bruce is now in here.
That's not
Want a beer?
No, I'll pass on the beer for now.
You sure? Come over and say hello.
Yes. So this is my sweetie. Hello. He's the best. And I'm crazy. I love you too. Thank you for being here. Pleasure. I'm glad you're here. Enjoy your beer. So who have we got here so far? That I can see. Gabmar, good to see you. Hello. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up in our house. I remember there being more to this. Yeah, I need lots more of that. I agree. All right. I remember there being a lot more awkwardness than what we just saw, but I appreciate you sharing, Adrian. Thank you. Thank you much. What do you got for me?
Gabmar.
And also Allegan News shared it with me as well. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Let's get back into let's finish up here. I'm almost done with my little thing. I knew this was gonna be 3 hours. I'm really not in the mood for Mark Kelly. He's kind of boring. What do you have next?
Successful airlift in American history. When and I want armed service
Is the idea of having a Secretary of Defense who is not transparent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Secretary Austin testified before the
This is Jim Banks, Republican from Indiana.
House Armed Services Committee a couple of years ago, and responding to a question from me said he had, quote, no regrets about what happened in Afghanistan. I wonder, what do you make of that? Painful. They still tout it as the most successful airlift in American history, when what the rest of us all saw was true laid before our eyes.
But thanks, Tammy.
Utter failure, a destruction of a military legacy there, abandonment of our allies, death of American troops, detriment to our reputation, and then no answers and no accountability on the other side. And then what was unleashed because of what happened in Afghanistan? The October 7th attacks, an invasion into Ukraine. The world recognized weakness for what it was.
Yep.
And who bore the brunt for it? The troops on the front lines at Abbey Gate doing an impossible job, whose external security was the Taliban.
Yep.
Because there was no actual plan for this under the Biden administration. And yet, not a single person, the only person held accountable in those moments was a Marine Corps lieutenant colonel who had the courage to stand up and say, someone should be held accountable for that. His name is Stu Scheller. No one else involved has ever taken accountability for it. And when that microcosm becomes the reality of the perception of the American military or America's commitment to victory and success and positive outcomes, the world responds to that.
I hope that on January 21st, we start having court-martial proceedings for people who oversaw the evacuation of Afghanistan. That's what I'd love to see. I want to see court-martial proceedings. I know statute of limitations is run, but that's what I want to see, because there was just massive incompetence there.
President Trump is going to restore real deterrence by bringing a real warrior culture back, rebuilding our military, and ending wars properly. And if we have to fight them, winning them decisively. I served in Afghanistan. You served in Afghanistan. 75% of our nation's veterans disagree with how the withdrawal from Afghanistan was handled, the embarrassment of it. What that's done, I believe, has directly impacted our historic recruitment crisis in this country, without a doubt. And you've already talked about that, but how do we fix it? How do we bring pride back to wearing the uniform for the next generation, to inspire them to do what you and I did, to raise our right hand and take that oath and serve this great country?
It's a good question. And I covered this earlier, Cars in Depth, when I covered this before I started doing this whole thing. I appreciate you sharing that, in case I'd missed it. And I thought it was hilarious that he works for a TEI firm. It was in the opening. It was actually pretty. It was the first 20 minutes, and it was actually pretty funny. You should go back after and check.
Comes back to strong, clear leadership, patriotic, pro-American leadership that says we're not going to focus on all the other political prerogatives. That's why we all have political perspectives. I said this before and I'll say it again. In uniform, none of that matters. You wear green, you wear blue, you bleed red. That's it. Who you vote for doesn't matter. But when the perception of that changes, then you don't want people deciding whether to serve based on a political party in power. That's a dangerous thing for continuity inside your military. And it's fragile right now. President Trump, and if I'm confirmed with my leadership, we're going to restore the continuity of an apolitical military that acts decisively and only based on merit. They sound basic, but they're fundamental.
You and I agree. You and I agree that wokeness is weakness. Mr. Hegseth, do you support racial quotas in recruitment or promotions in the United States military?
Not, Senator, support any form of racial quota.
Do you support affirmative action in our nation's military academies?
Senator, hiring and promoting and admitting the best and brightest, whatever their background is.
I think that's very important. Mr. Hegseth, Lloyd Austin, the secretary, later went AWOL. He disappeared for days and never told the president, didn't even inform the president's chief of staff that he was going into the hospital. Would that ever occur on your watch?
No, Senator. I know in any one of my jobs, if I had decided to go AWOL for even a day or two in uniform or around that, that would have been a concern.
For those who I haven't met in my 1 week that I've been sworn into the Senate, I'm a...
This is Alyssa Slotkin. No jokes. I know how y'all think. Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat, newly admitted Democrat from Michigan. In what was a very controversial election, she managed to beat out, what was his name? I forgot his name already. I apologize for that. But yeah. So this is Alyssa Slotkin. This is the world seeing her for the first time doing her job.
CIA officer recruited after 9/11. I did 3 tours armed in Iraq alongside the military, and have worked for 4 different secretaries of defense, both Democrat and Republican, proudly, and watched them make decisions that literally determine the life and death of Americans in the dark of night.
Good. And thank you for your service. Please do not embarrass yourself in your first appearance on the national stage.
I'm also a Democrat representing a state that Trump won, right? We both won on the same ballot. So I understand that President Trump has the right to nominate his people. We are going to have policies that we disagree with. All of that to me comes very standard. What I think I'm most concerned with is that no president has the right to use the uniformed military in a way that violates the U.S. Constitution and further taints the military as that apolitical institution that we all want, right? And our founders designed the system so that, we had posse comitatus, that we weren't going to use active duty military inside the United States and make American citizens potentially scared of their own military. We went through our own experience with that with the British. As the Secretary of Defense, you will be the one man standing in the breach should President Trump give an illegal order. Right? I'm not saying he will, but if he does, you are going to be the guy that he calls to implement this order. Do you agree that there are some orders that can be given by the commander-in-chief that would violate the U.S. Constitution?
Senator, thank you for your service.
By the way, that's a reasonable question. That is a very, very reasonable question. Out of the gate, that's a fair question. Your job is to uphold the Constitution. Are you going to be loyal to Trump or are you going to be loyal to the Constitution? That's a fair question. It's a very fair question.
But I reject the premise that President Trump is going to be giving illegal orders.
No, I'm not saying he will, but do you believe there is such a thing as an illegal order that Joe Biden or any other president, Donald Trump, could give? Is there anything that a commander-in-chief could ask you to do with the uniformed military that would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution?
The proper answer to this is yes. And I wouldn't carry out that order. If I deemed it to be unconstitutional, I would not carry it out. That's the proper answer. I haven't seen this exchange, but that is the proper answer. It's a fair question.
Senator, anybody of any party
Right.
could give an order that is against the Constitution or against the law.
Right. Okay. So are you saying that you would stand in the breach and push back if you were given an illegal order?
I start by saying I reject the premise that President
I
Trump will be
understand you've
giving
done your
any
genuflecting
illegal
to him,
orders
but
at all.
this isn't a hypothetical. Your predecessor in a Trump administration, Secretary.
So now you're going to ask him to weigh in on whether a previous order issued by him was unconstitutional. And that's now you're asking him to, that now is going to change the entire nature here.
Secretary Esper was asked and did use uniformed military to clear unarmed protesters. He was given the order to potentially shoot at them. Helos flew low in Washington.
Are we talking now about January 6th when the Capitol Police shot? Is this what we're talking about? What are we talking about? What are we talking about here? Because that seemed like an unconstitutional kill.
Washington, D.C. as crowd control. He later apologized publicly for those actions. Was he right or wrong to apologize?
Senator, I was there on the ground.
And
I saw that.
I understand and I respect that.
I've been there.
But you're about
understand
to
the
be
level
the
of threat
Secretary of
that was
Defense.
involved in that moment. I
Was
also
he right
understand
to? So he was
legality and the Constitution.
Sir, was he right
and the
or
laws of what
wrong
you
to
have.
apologize?
I'm not going to put words in the mouth of Secretary Esper or
No,
anybody else. from
he
this
said them
podium.
himself. You don't have to. What are you scared of? Did he do the right thing by apologizing?
I'm not scared of anything, Senator.
Then say
I'm
yes or no.
interested
You
in
can say
upholding
no.
The laws and the Constitution.
Okay.
In any
So
particular
Donald
scenario.
Trump.
You can have a different read as to whether or not it's constitutional. Meaning, he's saying, I was there on the ground, and I don't think that the order was unconstitutional. Just because Esper decided that it was unconstitutional, that doesn't make him right. That just means that was his call. His personal call was that was unconstitutional. That's not definitive statement that it's unconstitutional. That doesn't mean that a judge overseeing it would find it to be unconstitutional. And you're trying to put him in a position here where he basically has to choose between Esper and Trump and agree with Esper that it was unconstitutional. And he's saying, I was there, you weren't. I was there in the moment. I understand the gravity there as to why it is that Trump gave that order. So yeah, that's a reasonable response. They don't want to let him give a reasonable response. So this is classic politician trying to just, instead of get an actual answer from him, trying to control the framing of the question. Let him answer, and then you could disagree with him.
Asked for the active duty 82nd Airborne to be deployed during that same time. Secretary Esper has written that he convinced him against that decision. If Donald Trump asked you to use the 82nd Airborne in law enforcement roles in Washington, D.C., would you also convince him otherwise?
I'm not going to get ahead of conversations I would have with the president. However, there are laws and processes inside our Constitution that would be followed.
President Trump said in November that he is willing to consider using the active duty military against the, quote, enemy within. Have you been personally involved in discussions of using the U.S. military active duty inside the United States?
Senator, I'm fine. I'm glad we finally got to the topic of border security equaling national security because it's been abdicated and ignored for the last 4 years.
That wasn't my question. I'm just.
I like Pete. I like him.
Asking, have you been involved? You're about to be the Secretary of Defense potentially. Have you been involved in discussions about using the active duty military inside the United States?
Senator, I am not yet the Secretary of Defense.
Right.
He doesn't want to answer this question. He has. He totally has. He doesn't want to say yes. He doesn't want to lie. He's ducking. He's going to stonewall this question. It's a fair question. To be fair, it's a fair question. Compared to most of her Democratic colleagues, she's actually been asking far more normal. These are more normal questions. These are questions that are not grandstanding. It's like, what is your position on unconstitutional orders? Do you think that this is an unconstitutional order? Have you had conversations about using the military on domestic soil against illegal aliens? These are reasonable questions that Alyssa Slotkin is asking here, and he's doing a very good job of the dance that he needs to do, which is basically saying, I'm not answering that question. I am not answering that question.
If confirmed, I would be party to any number of
But you haven't been in any of these
which I would not
conversations.
reveal what I have discussed with the President of the United States.
Just have you been in conversations? You're going to be in charge of 3 million people, the active duty that I know you care about. I believe you care about. So have you been in conversations about using the active duty in any way? Whether it's setting up in detention camps, policing dangerous cities, have you been involved in any of those conversations?
Certainly, I have been involved in conversations relating to doing things this administration has not, which is secure the southern border and not allow floods of illegals to enter our country through an invasion that threatens the American people. And there are ways in which the military is already
that's more of a yes than I expected him to give.
Playing a role in that, to include 5,000 National Guardsmen from Indiana and Texas. We're at the border right now, allowing for border security.
Will you
So there is
ask the
plenty of
active
precedent
duty military to
members
staff
enforcing
detention
our southern
centers?
border.
Our U.S. military
Detention centers. Where did you come to the detention centers? He just said they've been in conversation. He didn't say anything about detention centers.
is not trained in law enforcement roles. I think you know that, right? We've seen how that mission is difficult for them in places like Iraq and Afghanistan because that's not the training a uniformed military comes with. Do you support the use of active duty military in supporting detention camps?
Senator, everything we will do would be lawful and under the Constitution, but I recognize that this administration has abdicated its responsibility. President Trump is going to restore order at the border, prevent our enemies from invading. And yes, he has said,
Sir, I get your filibustering. I get it.
Part of what
in
happened.
the spirit of preserving the institution.
By the way, he is filibustering, and it's the right move to do. It is the right move to do because they each got 7 minutes, so his filibustering there was the right course of action. I'm surprised he gave as much as he gave. Of admitting that they've had conversations. They basically gave her nothing beyond that.
That I think we both care about legitimately. The Uniform Code of Military Justice. I've heard a couple of different things. One, you said you will not change the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is what governs justice system in the military. Yes or no? You said that earlier.
Those are
I'm just
laws,
confirming.
Senator, set by Congress.
Okay, so you will not go to change it. You will not attempt to change it. You also said that JAG officers are potentially people who put their own interests in their own medals and promotions ahead of the troops.
No. He was asked by the very first Democrat, Reid, who's the ranking minority chair, ranking minority leader, Reid. He's like, you referred to jagoffs. What are jagoffs? And he's like, I think everyone here knows what that is. So he's like, no, tell me. He's like, I think everyone in the room here knows what it is. He's like, no, tell me. And he's like, jagoffs are JAG officers who put their own personal needs ahead of the military. It was such a brilliant, and Reid was stunned into silence. He was trying to mock him. Like, how dare you refer to certain JAG officers as jagoffs? And he's like, and he gave an answer, which is like the perfect answer. That doesn't mean all JAG officers are like that. He's just saying certain JAG officers are jagoffs.
Senator Lindsey Graham was a JAG officer for most of his life.
He was a jagoff. He was. I can guarantee you that guy cares about his that guy's putting his own personal needs ahead of this country. 100%. Yes, jagoff. 100%.
Is that what you believe about those who implement our justice system in the U.S. military?
Senator, I was speaking about particular JAG officers I've had to deal with in my military
Are you going to
experience,
get
not
involved?
about a member of the United States Senate.
Are you, as Secretary of Defense, going to get involved in the implementation of?
He needs Lindsey Graham to vote for him, so he's not going to refer to Lindsey Graham as a jagoff. Lindsey Graham's not in the room, but he knows he's going to see it if he calls him a jagoff. So yeah. He doesn't need this woman's vote, but he does need Graham's.
The U.S. Military Code of Justice.
I've had to deal with in my military
Are you going to
experience,
get
not
involved?
about a member of the United States Senate.
Are you, as Secretary of Defense, going to get involved in the implementation of the U.S. Military Code of Justice?
Senator, ultimately, it will be a big part of my job to evaluate decisions vis-a-vis
Okay,
the
so I'll take
Uniform
that.
Code of
I'll
Military
take that as
Justice.
yes. Have you seen
fairly?
Is CQ Brown on your list in the Warrior boards to be removed from his position?
Senator, Every single senior officer will be reviewed based on meritocracy, standards, lethality, and commitment to lawful orders they will be given.
I'll tell you this. I think he did exceptionally well. And the key thing that we got from today, really the key thing that we got, aside from him having some phenomenal answers and some hilarious questions, was he showed grace in class throughout. He showed tremendous patience with some really stupid senators, some of the really stupider ones. I mean, including the stupidest one who ever held the post. And he showed certain cleverness at times, and that his positions on certain things are exceptionally based. And the really key thing that we got is that part of this select committee was Joni Ernst, who's one of a handful of senators who seem, from the Republican side, who seemed like they were on the fence. I'm not sure if I'm going to confirm him or not. And as I played an audio clip an hour and a half or so ago, she said that this convinced her that she's going to be voting to confirm him. So that's a massive win. I cannot wait to see this guy getting confirmed. A lot of people are expecting this. The NPR is saying they don't think he's going to get confirmed. I'll tell you right now. They referred to him as Walking Dead. It's a very interesting thing. You'll find some headlines like this referring to him as the Walking Pete Hegseth, NPR referring to him as Walking Dead nominee. Megyn Kelly, who was there today in support, says that he'll be confirmed easily. And I'll tell you this much: he's certainly. I have a lot more confidence in Megyn.
No one laid a.
We'll whatchamacallit. Well, in fact, I'll play this quick clip from Megyn Kelly because I think that she's pretty good at what she does, and she's also one of the things I really like about her, aside from the fact that she's become so based, is that she's actually very cool about never ever dinging me for sharing clips. So, tip my cap to you, Megan. Thank you.
Love on him. He's good. He's got this. I have zero doubts now that he will be confirmed. Joni Ernst was the big question mark, and she was great today. She was very nice in her questioning of him, very respectful. That's not a no vote. No way. And, this is just the Senate Armed Services Committee. He'll get out of committee. But she was the big pivotal vote. Even if Trump is going to lose potentially McConnell, potentially Murkowski, and Collins, which now they're saying he might not. I don't think Pete.
I don't. This is the. No. We did the Tammy thing. We were there. I was there. I was there. But that whole race is over now. Okay? No. That race is just no. Okay? So, anyone of you who's if you're thinking about sending me more of these Tammy things, skip on out of here. No one wants it. Okay.
Hegseth has trouble. I think he's going to get confirmed, and I don't think anybody touched him. And really, to me, the story of the day was how some of these Democrat senators embarrassed themselves trying to. I was humiliated for some. Why do the women always have to be so shitty? Why do the women have to be like these hysterical fools? Why can't they be more dignified? You could lay gloves on him. I mean, Tim Kaine was the worst. I should say that up front. The worst, the most disgusting, I should say. But he wasn't like an hysteric. Mazie Hirono is so dumb.
Dumbest senator ever.
can't believe she's a U.S. Senator. Kristen Gillibrand was like, women can be in combat. You've heard our feelings. Oh my God.
No,
you are undermining the very cause that I know you so desperately want to promote right now. So I was embarrassed for them. I was embarrassed for my sex and how they were behaving today. Then there was Slotkin, who's the newest Democrat over on the left side. And while her background sounded impressive, she'd been with the CIA and so on. She was so annoying. Oh, I know you've genuflected. Okay, you've done your genuflection to Donald Trump. Like everyone was just.
Yeah, but to be fair, she asked much better questions than most of the Democrats. She has better questions than Tim Kaine did. The questions she's asking, would you violate the Constitution for him? That's a reasonable question, at least. Yeah, that was a snarky comment. I think you're being a little. I mean, she's going to be a Democrat. You all heard me. I thought Slotkin, compared to the rest of the Democrats, was actually near the end. She started getting very annoying.
There's a way of doing cross-examination where you don't wind up the least likable between the person you're crossing and yourself. And obviously these people, most of them haven't done it. Like you can tell the difference, like you see a Trey Gowdy cross-examination, you think he's the man. Like that guy knows what he's doing. You see these people try to do it. You're like, are you trying to make me hate you? Like, I'm not inclined to hate you just because you're a Dem or against Pete. You're just behaving like a prick. Anyway, before I bring in Michael, just want to say, so I went there today. I've never gone to a Senate confirmation hearing as like a regular person, as opposed to as a member of the press. I did it because the Hegseths invited me, and I said, you know what, this would be a great experience for me for a couple of reasons. Number one, I do support Pete Hegseth and am very happy to telegraph to the world that I do and that I hope he gets through. And if my sitting there in any way telegraphs to people who need it to be telegraphed, that it would be a good thing to support him and that I think the allegations against him are bullshit, great, I'll do it, fine. But number two, I did think it would be a fascinating experience for me too, having been on the other side so many times, not as a senator, but as a member of the media, just covering these things to see what it's like to be in the middle of it all. And my takeaway is it's very, very boring. You had to sit there from 9:30 straight. We got out at 2, no breaks. While some kept it kind of exciting, for the most part, it was like, oh, especially these Democratic senators who just want to hear themselves talk. The Republicans actually asked him questions that.
All right, anyway, so I'm gonna wrap this up over here. I think it's time for us to start landing our plane. It's time for me to start landing my plane, but she seems very confident that Pete is going to skate on in there. And that's encouraging. She probably has more access to background information than most folks. So I don't think she would go on that limb if she's been hearing a lot of negative feedback. So she's saying that he'll certainly be confirmed. And that's great news for America. That's not great news for MAGA. That's great news for America. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. All right. That's our show. We had a lot of laughs tonight. This was a fun show tonight. If you came late and missed some of it, go back. The opening was a lot of fun. The Hirono part was a lot of fun. We had there was a lot of enjoyable stuff here. You want to go back and you really want to go back. There was some good stuff there. I know some of you can't stay the entire time, whatever. Trust me, you'll appreciate it. While you're here, please like, share, and subscribe. And when you're doing that, that's kind of a commitment that you're saying no to the lab meat. The lab meat is not for you. It's for they, them. It's for people who don't know how to fly helicopters. It's not for you. It's not for you. Even if you've never flown a helicopter, trust me, it ain't for you. It's lab meat. I mean, just put those two words together and ask yourself, why would that ever happen? Meat has one source of a few different varieties, but one source. It's not coming from a carbon life form. You don't want it. Also, don't ever eat the bugs. Just don't do it. I'm doing a quick search around here, make sure I didn't miss anything on the way out. I don't think I did. Oh, I did. Oh, look at Duckfest said you won't find Senator Duckworth standing behind Ukraine. You won't find Senator Duckworth standing behind Ukraine anytime soon. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Lordy, Lord, 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 Lord. I miss Bill Dozer saying the crazy thing about these screeching harpies is that they demonstrate perfectly what most women should never be in a direct combat role. I don't think I hit that one earlier. So if I missed it, I apologize for coming back to it so late. I did keep peeking in here. I did. I'm paying attention to the ghetto, Bill Dozer. I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. But yeah. Yeah. The Mullen clip. Yeah, I forgot about Mullen. All right. I have full 7 minutes of Mullen. The plane is like we're down. We're in the hangar. The plane's in the hangar. I'll compromise with you. I found one. I know someone will share with me the full 7 minutes of Mullen. I actually had put aside here. If I can find it, I should be able to find it pretty quick. It's the phone. Here we go. This is like a 2.5 minute clip. Yeah. It's almost 3 minutes. This is almost half. This is like the main part of Mullen. The main part of Mark Wayne Mullen. Half Irish. Oh, this is what I do have to do. One of the things I do owe you, because I got enough of. I think we crossed the threshold. So I'm gonna make 5 of you members right now. Let me do that. Gosh. Boom. Gifted 5. Who did I bring on in here? To the following: Judge Maddie, Ditch Wicked, Cecilia Morris, Queen Olive, and Karen O. Welcome to the following, you all, you crazy freaking followers. I'm pulling up 3 minutes a month, almost 3 minutes a month. Okay, Mark Wayne Mullen did a good job. So let's. No, I'm not doing the full clip, Natcha Kitty. I'm not doing it, but I will do the shorter thing. Those of you who came into the following, welcome to the following. Here we go.
Getting some advice from
I
my
understand
second
that.
in command.
Yeah, but I'm just making a point because there's a lot about qualifications. And I think it's so hypocritical of senators, especially on the.
This is Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma. He's the better one from Oklahoma, if you're wondering.
Other side of the aisle, be talking about his qualifications, not going to lead the secretary or be the.
This guy behind him seems so. You know what? Just for this guy behind him on camera, I'll give you the full 7 minute one. All right. Just because he seems so stupidly smug. I'm on camera, Mom. Fine, here we go.
For the record, signatures by 32 members of the House
Here's
Representatives.
a full
who are
7
veterans.
minutes.
The signatures call on the Senate to honor the constitutional duty of advising consent by conducting a fair, thorough confirmation process that evaluates his nomination solely on the substance and merits. His distinguished military service, academic credentials, and a bold vision for revitalizing the national defense.
Blah, blah, blah.
Consent to enter into the record.
Without objection.
There's a lot of talk going about talking about qualifications and then about us hiring him if we are the board. But there's a lot of senators here I wouldn't have on my board because there is no qualifications except your age, and you got to be living in the state and you're a citizen of the United States to be a senator. Other than the fact we got to convince a lot of people to vote for us.
Oh, shots fired at Senator Hirono.
And then when we start talking about qualifications, for if you're qualified for it, could the chairman tell me what the qualifications are for the Secretary of Defense?
What do you think are the qualifications for Secretary of Defense? What do you think are the qualifications for Secretary of Defense? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Are you qualified to be Secretary of Defense? What are those qualifications?
Mr. Chairman, could you tell me what the qualifications are for the Secretary of Defense?
I'd be happy for
I'll read it.
for you to do that.
Yeah. Let me read it for you because I Googled
I
it.
was getting some advice from
I
my
understand
second
that.
in command.
Yeah, but I'm just making a point because there's a lot about qualifications. And I think it's so hypocritical of senators, especially on the other side of the aisle, be talking about his qualifications.
No. We're not doing this, Ditch. You know, I just gifted you a membership in the following. And now you're sitting now. Oh my gosh. We're back. God. Now all these jokes about Tammy are gonna get kicked back into high gear again. I don't need it.
It's not going to lead the secretary or be the Secretary of Defense, and yet your qualifications aren't any better. You guys aren't any more qualified to be the senator than I'm qualified to be the senator, except we're lucky enough to be here. But let me read you what the qualifications of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see. But in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary of Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But you so quickly forget about that. And then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too. I have changed, but I'm not perfect. But I found somebody that thought I was perfect. And for whatever reason, you love Pete, and I don't know why. But just like our Lord and Savior forgave me, my wife's had to forgive me more than once too, and I'm sure you've had to forgive him too. And so thank you. So before I go down this rabbit hole again, tell me something about your wife that you love.
She's the smartest, most capable, loving, humble, honest person I've ever met. In addition to being incredibly beautiful. Don't forget about your kids. I'm supposed to talk about my kids?
No, well, she's also the mother.
Oh, an amazing mother.
Yes.
Of our blended family of 7 kids.
Brother, I'm pulling you
which love
along.
her.
I'm trying to help you here. You know, do you believe that you're going to be running the Secretary or the Department of Defense by yourself?
Senator, absolutely not. Just as President Trump is assembling his cabinet, I look forward and already am in the process of building one of the best possible teams you can imagine, with decades and decades of experience outside of the Pentagon, driving innovation and excellence, and also inside the building, knowing how to make it happen. Yes, sir.
So In your organizations that you did have the privilege of running, did you have a board that you?
In both organizations, we had a board. Yes.
Okay. And what did you do with that board? What kind of decisions did you make with them?
Those boards provided oversight and insight into decision-making.
They all have special, unique sets that maybe filled gaps that you're not the expertise in?
Yes, sir.
So do you believe you're capable of surrounding yourself with capable individuals that you're going to be able to run those same ideas by and surround yourself with people that are smarter and better equipped in maybe areas that you don't necessarily carry those expertise with?
Senator, the only reason I've had success in life, to include my wonderful wife, is because of people more capable around me and having the self-confidence to empower them and say, hey, run with the ball, run with the football, take it down the field. We'll do this together. I don't care who gets the credit. And in this case, that's how the Pentagon will be run.
Let's end with this, Mr. Chairman, about the qualifications. You got a man who has literally put his butt on the line. He served 20 years in the service, multiple deployments, has heard the bullets crack over the top of his head, has been willing to go into combat, been willing to see friends die for this country. And he's willing to still put himself through this. His wife is willing to still stand beside him, knowing he wasn't perfect, knowing that all this was going to be brought up. And he's still willing to serve the country. What other qualifications does he need? That I yield back.
Thank you, Senator.
Well done. Well done. That was worth the 7 minutes. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate you guys pushing me across the finish there. I am going to land my plane. You all know about the stuff I already told you that we're in the hangar. We're in the hangar. But so we're deplaning now. We're deplaning. And that means all I have left to say to you fine folks, the only thing I have left really is, oh wait, Duckfat saying, I was informed Senator Duckworth's audition for Legless was for Lord of the Wings, not Harry Schotter. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I don't expect this video to be recommended by YouTube. So if you're maybe by Rumble, I don't know. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We had a fun time tonight. But like all good things, they must come to an end. Good night and Godspeed.